I think we're good to go, Mayor.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. Would you join with me in the pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, I have to say, this is the first and biggest crowd we've had in a year and a half. Yeah, it's seen you for a long time. Kathy, City Clerk, could you please do roll call for us?
Sure. Mayor McGowan.
Here.
Matthew Lund,
Present.
John Blondo,
Here.
Rustin Weaver,
Here.
Stephen Harper,
Present.
Mickey Holtz,
Here.
Beth Williams is absent, and Ken Ratliff.
Here.
So if I'm not mistaken, Beth is detained because of work. But do I have a motion to excuse Beth?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded to excuse Beth from the meeting today. All those in favor with aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, she's excused. Thank you for that, Stephen. I have to remember you're out there. There's a slight delay. Okay, so on approval of meeting agenda, if the council notice, we did add under unfinished business, something we're not supposed to do. We added to the agenda the city safety improvements. Ben Annan's gonna explain why it was important that we add this tonight. With that, is there approval for the meeting agenda?
That's item 9D, Mr. Mayor.
That's 9CD, yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the meeting agenda as amended. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the meeting agenda is approved. So under announcements, appointments, recognition, I did hand out to the council a letter that we got from the Yakima Basin Fish and Wildlife Recovery Board, which I'm on. I'll read the first paragraph to give you an idea of what this is about. The role of local governments in fish and wildlife recovery is critical. In 2006, the city of Elum signed an interlocal agreement that created the Yakima Basin Fish and Wildlife Recovery Board. The board operates as an independent nonprofit organization governed by 10-member board of directors selected from 23-member governments. The board's mission is to restore sustainable and harvestable populations of salmon, steelhead, bull trout, and other at-risk fish and wildlife species through the collaboration and economic sensitive resource management of the Yakima Basin. So what this is about really is that there's an annual meeting every year, and it's going to be down in the Tri-Cities. And probably the thing that's most fun about the annual meeting is the tour they go on, and you're invited to go. And I can give you a copy more of this information, but they'll be looking at the Delta Bateman project. And some of you don't know, down at the mouth of the Yakima River, there's a small island, and it got filled in. And there's an issue with the river being able to go around it. There's going to be a demonstration of the water stargrass harvesting. It's like a swather that goes through the water and picks up stargrass to kind of clear the thing, and that's going to be new. They go into the Barker Ranch and the Yakima River Gateway. So that's part of the agenda for the tour. So anybody here on the council, anyone really, is invited to go to that. And if you are interested, I can give you more information. I won't read it all, just so you know. And this is the part of the recovery board's job is to rate projects, fish surfboard for fish in projects where fish can get up through obstructions and that sort of stuff. Okay, that's it for me from announcements. So now we're down to the consent agenda.
Move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All there in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is accepted. Officer reports. First, we'll hear from our city administrator, Rob Elum.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council. I know we have a lot on our agenda, so I'll be brief. The numbers for June building permits. I sold 10 permits last month for a total this year of 43. And total permits is for just last month was 13,000. Kind of an interesting fact. Last year, right in the middle of COVID, I sold the same amount of permits. So it seemed like I was just as busy during COVID as I am now. So that's interesting fact. And as far as inspections, 32 inspections last month. So it's around a little more than one a day. Want to kind of give you, I just got this notice, last week from the Department of Ecology. We have been awarded yet another grant. Basically, it's a half grant and half loan for up to 231,000, and that's for our stormwater plan. There'll be it'll give us the money to do a stormwater plan, something that we do not have right now.
200 and what? What, Rob?
It was 231,000. So half of that is grant and half of it is a loan. And there's no action on this one at all today, even though you might see other grants that are coming up, but this is just hot off the press. We're waiting for contracts from the Department of Ecology. One other thing on the IT realm here, I know a lot of the council members are still getting the on their iPads kind of the message that says that City of Cle Elum has claimed cityofcleelum.gov, and starting August 1st, you'll no longer be able to use that. Well, Mark, our IT guy, has been working. It's basically an issue that Microsoft and Apple have to kind of talk to each other, and sometimes that's not easy to do. And but he's already contacted Microsoft and fixed a lot of issues. And tomorrow he has a call with Apple, and so I just talked to him, Mark, today, and he said that by August 1st you'll be able to basically you have to log out of your email on your iPad, and I can show you how to do that, and then log back in. Once you log out and log back in, then you'll be able to have your email. And all this is the deployment of the business aspect of the iCloud, so that if you lose your iCloud password or anything, we do have control of it. That is all that I have for my report this evening. Any questions?
Rob, I have two things as I was going through old agendas that I just wanted updates on. One is, what's the status of our American Rescue Plan funds? I haven't really heard anything about that since that was passed months ago.
Yes, that's a good question. I believe we do have, and I could ask Robin, did we get half of that? Yeah, so we got.
Yeah, 284,000 and change.
Yeah, so we have
this
it.
year, and then we'll get the same amount next year.
Yeah. So we have it, and we've got it in the bank, earning interest right now. And haven't had an idea, well, had lots of ideas how to spend it, but haven't nailed it down yet. We have been talking with the other jurisdictions like the county and the city, and they're all about the same thing. They're all about pretty much, well, let's just keep it in the bank for now.
So one shot, so if you're real careful.
I know, but we've got a crumbling water system that we could use the money for, and it seems like that
Yeah.
might be a prudent potential use for the
Yeah,
money.
could be.
Second question is, Eric Bolstad came to ask about the noise ordinance that we sort of have, and we had kind of left it at, I think the police chief had submitted something and we were going to look at it, but I haven't seen anything about that. And I know they're looking to open at the end of the summer, so I wanted to make sure we didn't forget about acting on that.
Okay. Yeah, Kirk might be able to speak to it. I think has a bunch of ordinances ready to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did forget about that. Kirk, is that part of the ordinances that you have is,
Yep, that's correct. I was going to mention that tonight so we can hopefully actually present them to council tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, the next meeting, yes.
okay.
Thank you.
Excellent questions. Thanks.
Okay, next we'll hear from our city treasurer, Robin Newcomb, who's going to give us a report on what point are we at? The halfway mark on our budget, Robin?
Halfway mark, yes. Honorable Mayor and Council, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure of that first. We have, first of all, I'm going to go through a couple things. I leave for Indiana on Saturday, and I thank you for the opportunity to do that. I've been under the weather a little bit, so I'm trying to get back through that. The exit conference for the audit, which was both a federal single audit because of how many grants we've received or spent the money of, I should say, and 2019 and 2020 financials looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the results. There's a few things that are minor, but they'll go through those. We were a little scared at first because of something that came up on the CDBG grant, but we got through it and we're all good. So I'm really happy with that, and they're pretty happy too. If you actually have not gotten invites yet, because he's going to send them out tomorrow. So whoever wants to attend that exit conference on Friday at 11, you should get an email tomorrow from him, from the auditor. Revenues are at the 6 month, they're at 59%, which includes the 147,000 from the what do I want to call it? The poll, the
Cell site.
cell site. Thank you. Lots of words. Without that, we'd be at 54%. So that's still good. Expenses are in at 51%. If you're looking for the 12-acre money, it's not in. If you look at your numbers in the upper left of your report, the first 10 pages are the general fund, and page 11 is in its own fund, which is the 12-acre 400,000, which there's a few things that have been expensed to it. Of course, the water fund's a little low. The sewer fund is up, which seems to be always the battle. I don't really have an answer for you. The sewer fund seems to have more money, and they apparently spend more out of the water. As far as those grants go, we can't just go out and spend on anything on water and sewer. It needs to be EPA approved. Somebody needs to look into that and see how we can spend it on water, sewer. They do have some restrictions on that. So they gave you this money and then they have all these restrictions, and that's why everybody's having a hard time. There's 15 grants I'm currently working on, the city currently has. And that's all I have. If you have any questions.
Everything's quiet here, Robin.
Thank you, Robin.
Ken, will you make sure to sign the reports
I
before you
did.
leave tonight? You
I did.
did? Oh, good. Thank you.
Oh, boy. Talk about being on here. Okay, next we'll hear from our city planner, Lucy Temple.
Hello, thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. A couple of permitting updates. We're actually starting to see the permits, some of the permits rolling in that we conducted pre-application review meetings for earlier this year. And we are processing 2 new short-term rental permits. That's our new code that was passed earlier this year. And we have another one coming in, and I just am starting to get a lot of calls and emails about those. For the Planning Commission, they're continuing to review the proposed future land use map and official zoning map and other proposed code updates. And they also have a vacancy, which we'll be looking to fill, but we have not yet advertised. So this is the first time mentioning it. So if you know anybody interested in being a part of our amazing Planning Commission, send them my way, please. Thank you. And does anyone have any questions or?
I have a question.
Okay.
Do you have any progress report on the cell tower being constructed as far as when final, occupancy date or execution date on that is, and et cetera?
Well, there is an update. As you can see, it's being painted. It was installed without the coloring that was required by our negotiated lease. So all of the fencing and the pole and the arrays and everything are going to be color matched. That is my update right now. The update that you might be looking for would probably come from Rob. He has the authority under the building permit and probably has that on his schedule. What do you think, Rob?
You answered my question. I hadn't seen it visually because I left town this morning. So that's great.
But Rob might have additional information. So if he wants to speak to that, he can, but.
Yeah, I don't really, but I did see a guy on the pole coming in today. He was painting, with a brush, painting the pole. It was kind of interesting to see that. Anyways, I'm assuming he's done by now, but no, they don't tell me when the array is coming. I think they're behind schedule, is what I think.
Yeah, they had to look for a long time to find a painter that wasn't afraid of heights.
Heights. Yeah, he was on a rope. I'm serious. Yeah, it was quite amazing.
All right. Well, we'll keep you updated when we know more.
Okay, thank you, Lucy. Now we'll hear from our Public Works Director, Mike Engelhardt.
Honorable Mayor, council members, well, to start off with, I'll answer the question that Robin brought up about the budget. I think I've made it clear during most of the meetings, the reason the water budget is lacking is because of all the water breaks and repairs that we've been happening to do. And the sewer is not so much because we've been practicing our Friday preventative maintenance of going out and jetting our problem sewer lines, helping to keep those intact as much as we can. Unfortunately, we don't have the way to do that with the water. We just have to wait for the leaks to show themselves and then do what we can to repair them. Speaking of which, we'll dive right in. We had a few pretty significant water main leaks in the last couple of weeks, as well as some service leaks. We have another one that just showed itself over on 3rd Street, so the crew will be over there tomorrow to repair that. The chip seals for the season are done. County did a great job again this year for us. There's still some loose gravel out there that we're working on getting swept up. Takes a little time just because the more we sweep it and the more people drive on it, some of the chips come loose, which is common and happens. We helped with the 4th of July parade, and as of last weekend, the getting the barricades and stuff out for the Downtown Association's street fair. The system we got working with the PD and everyone else seems to be working very well between the chamber and the communication with the Downtown Association, the chamber and the police department after the events meetings that we've had. Pretty happy with how everything turned out. Kirk might either agree or disagree, but that's my side of the story. But that's all I got for this week. Any questions?
Hey, Mike, no questions. I just wanted to mention to your team that the streets and look amazing and the flower pots look amazing, and hats off to you guys that have really done it. They look great this year. They've never looked better. So hats off to your team for that.
Thank you. And actually, I want to pay, tribute to the Downtown Association. The new planners that they bought this year are making it a lot easier and a lot less labor intensive to maintain those. The planners and the pots down on the streets have some pretty awesome reservoirs in them with some carpeted wicks that allow us to not have to water them every single day, which takes a lot of, believe it or not, doesn't seem like much, but it takes a lot to water all of those. So now we're able to do the hanging baskets twice a week, every Monday and Thursday. And then the big planters on the street side, they get watered once a week. Every Monday morning, I try to bring the big water truck out and get those refilled. So thanks to the Downtown Association for, finding those awesome planters and hanging baskets, and looking forward to keeping them going from years to come.
Hey, thank you, Mike. Now we have our police chief, Kirk Bland.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. And yes, Mike, the several events that we've held have gone really smoothly. I've been very pleased with that, especially the way the parade route has turned out to be. We had, of course, the parade. We had a car show, and we also had a 30-mile memorial ceremony up in Roslyn. So our crews have been busy. Our numbers are staying up. Let's see, I checked today. We're at 2,214 calls so far for this year. And as personnel updates, RJ Partridge, our newest officer, he has progressed quickly through his FTO program to the point that he's been removed from the FTO program. He's done with that. And I expected that with an officer with 8 years experience. So that's good for RJ and good for the police department. Matthew, as far as the noise ordinances and whatnot, we actually wrote up 4 different ordinances, noise being one of them, the priority one. Alex has been fantastic working back and forth with me on the verbiage. So she has it in a final format to be presented to the council. And we're hoping to do that for your next council meeting. So you folks can look those over and vote on them. And it's good timing as well. In addition to the gentleman with the bonsai teriyaki wanting the ordinance, we had a meeting today for another upcoming event. At the end of the month is the the Cle Elum Roundup, the rodeo. And they're going to need a noise waiver as well. This new noise ordinance specifically has a waiver section in it. So you folks can decide on waiving the noise ordinance for any specific event or any specific time period when somebody applies for it on their event application. So I think that'll be good. And I just give you guys a heads up, that's coming for the next meeting as well. And I think that's all I have to report.
So to give you an idea, the Roundup makes a little bit of noise, and so it's actually a variance you guys could do just by verbal things. We don't have to wait till the next meeting if you want. We'll just give them a go ahead now. And that's to give them a variance from noise.
Is it on the agenda?
It's not on the agenda. We can put it on the next agenda if you'd rather see it in writing.
Well, current code doesn't provide for any kind of variance.
Yeah, there it is for noise. There is, we can give a variance for noise.
We sure? I read it and I didn't see anything in there that gave us.
I think if I might speak, I may not be correct, but my understanding is, I believe there's a long understood, I think there's a long understood legal theory that a council can revoke or suspend a law per event, and that we have the power to enact laws and to repeal laws, and so that we have the power to suspend. And so exercising that power on an individual basis when we've been petitioned by a citizen or, by an event. We've done that in the past. I don't think we have to have a specific provision.
So if you'd like to take care of that now, it'd be fine.
I think the sooner the better for the rodeo. They're trying to book a band. They're trying to get it done. And the rodeo is on the 30th, so it's 18 days away.
Right.
Big request before I would feel comfortable granting, naming an approximate, decibel level that they'll be and geographical area, like when we've done it in the past for certain events. They've given us specific dimensions of what they're asking for.
Go ahead.
So the rodeo has provided us a site map of where the music and the stage is set up in the beer garden, et cetera. That happened during that meeting today. It was presented to the events committee, and they satisfied all of our requests on that. And as far as you saying that they provide a certain decibel level, we don't even have a decibel meter to do that. So I would, and nor does the noise ordinance talk about decibel levels. I specifically requested that not to be in the ordinance. It's more on distance. But yes, you're correct. In the past, anytime there's been an event such as this, where they wanted to exceed the normal noise of the area, or for an extended time beyond 10 p.m. at night, they've put that in as part of their event application, presented to council. Council would approve or disapprove. And that's what I'm hoping this new ordinance as well, means it does have the waiver portion in it, gives you folks the guidance you'll want that Matthew's requesting. It's spelled out specifically in a noise ordinance versus just being part of our nuisance ordinance, which is obviously outdated.
Then hearing that recommendation and that they've fulfilled the requirements in your judgment for something that would be permissible, I would move that we grant the noise variance to this event for the rodeo, and seek a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded to grant a noise variance for the upcoming Roundup event. Questions on the motion?
Yes. Chief Bland, where's the noise coming from and how late is it going?
The noise is coming from the horse park, from a live band, and it's scheduled from 9 p.m. to 11:30 p.m., both on the 30th and 31st of this month.
Okay, and another clarification, if we pass this, this is to enable the event now, we would have to revisit it to make this a longer lasting permission. Is that not right?
Correct. So tonight, I'm assuming if you folks decide to grant the waiver for the rodeo for this year, for 2021, it's a done deal and they proceed as planned. The next meeting, when I present the ordinance, when you talk about the waivers, you'll have the opportunity to see what I've put in there. And there's actually provisions. So if this is a yearly scheduled event type of thing, you as a council can say, yes, it's a regularly scheduled event and we automatically waive the noise ordinance, with whatever restrictions you choose. And that's nice, especially for something like the rodeo. That's going to be a regularly scheduled event for the last weekend in July every single year. Or if you choose, you could force them to make a presentation every single year, just like we doing right now.
Yeah, well, this is timely. I'm glad you all brought it up.
Any other questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the variance is passed. Okay, thank you. That kind of took a little bit of time, but we got it done. And they have their marching orders. They had a really good committee meeting today with the new rodeo board. They're just super cooperative, good bunch. Okay, next, we'll hear from our fire chief. Ed, are you online here somewhere?
Yes, I am. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Just a quick report for you. The calls for June, we had a total of 31 calls. We only had 2 fire calls in the month of June. One was a vehicle fire on I-90 and the other was a mutual aid request for wildland fire in Ellensburg. So actually pretty uneventful. We had 2 smoke scares, vapors, and people are really on edge with all the education out there. So a sprinkler was cited to be possible smoke. So a few calls that were just by precaution. The 4th went good. We had no incidents for the 4th of July reporting ahead. So that was good. And that's all I've got for you, unless you've got some questions.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Next, we'll hear from our Veolia operator, William LaRue.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. With the warmer weather that we've seen recently, our focus has been primarily on plant operations. During the month of June, we were averaging 18.5 hours of operation per day. Since the last week of June, first week of July, we are up to 23.5 hours a day of operations. We've had a rather interesting couple of weeks with the operations that are beyond our control on things. I kind of give you an idea what I'm talking about is with our operations this time of year, it's the equivalent of running your vehicle at 75 miles an hour. You have very little room for error versus running it at 25 miles an hour. So when we have little things that create issues for us, we have a very small window to get it fixed before we start having larger issues with the plants. A couple of things that we've had to deal with has been back-to-back power outages on Friday and Saturday this last week. One was centered primarily down at the wastewater plant with a tree that fell into the power lines. And then the following day, we had a very widespread outage that knocked out power to not only the wastewater plant, but the intake, several of the reservoirs, but not up at the water treatment plant. So it's been kind of interesting chasing gremlins around the last several weeks. Give you an update on the projects. On our variable frequency drive project, we have received quotes for the variable frequency drives. I have a meeting later this week with an electrician to go over the project and get a quote from him to do the actual installation, the removal and installation on the new units. And on the 19th of this month, I'll have a meeting with the vendor that's going to provide the VFDs to do a project walkthrough to make sure we got everything covered and we're not missing anything. The SCADA project down at the wastewater treatment plant, we have the computers have been ordered. They're approximately 3 weeks out. Software should be arriving this week. They're dealing with a couple of vacations right now, and once they get back up to full staff, we'll have this moving along rapidly. I anticipate probably the 1st of August to mid-August that we'll be up and running with the new system. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you folks may have.
Yeah.
How are the pumps doing?
Pumps are doing fine. We haven't had any issues with those, but all the annual maintenance was completed on it in April and May. So, trying to get ahead of the curve for the pumping, the busy season.
Very good.
Okay, thank you, William.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for officer reports. Now on the agenda, we have citizen comments on non-agenda items. I remind here, everyone, if you do have comments that on the upcoming revisions for City Heights Phase 2, that's down under unfinished business. There is a portion for public comments on that particular item on the agenda. If you have something else you wish to address the council about, now's the time. If there's anything, any other, looks like it's a one-issue meeting. Okay, well, let's see, online, is there anybody online that's going to, Rob, do you see any hands up in the waiting room? I forget, we have two audiences.
Right, you have two audiences. I'm looking, I see no hands raised. Nobody's in the waiting room. I think we're clear.
Okay, with that, we'll go down. We have no public appearances. There's no business requiring public hearings. We're going to go down to unfinished business, and the first thing on there is a brief report from our planner on revising the time and date for the public hearing for an ordinance to vacate a public right-of-way. So our city planner, Lucy Temple, will walk us through that.
Thank you again, everyone. Yes, we just need to revise, it was basically a clerical error that had the date a little bit earlier than what our noticing requirements would allow. And so we're asking via resolution 2021-018 to revise the time and date of the hearing for a vacation 2021-001 to August 9th, which is the council's first August meeting. And then this would meet the vacation of public right-of-way notice requirements of the appropriate RCW. And I presented in your packets the background information and basically the exact same staff report, just changing the time and date, or the date of the hearing. Any questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-018 and seek a second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's moved and seconded to approve resolution 2021-018, and that's to set the new hearing time and date as August 6th for the vacation. 9th, thank you, for the vacation hearing. Questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the resolution's passed. Okay, next we go down to B, and that's revisions to the City Heights Phase 1 preliminary plat conditions of approval. So first of all, we have 4 items here to deal with, and we'll have a staff report by Greg Dorn, and then we go from there.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. This is a continuation of an item that's been on your agenda for the last 2 meetings. And tonight we have an opportunity for you to hear directly from the project sponsor. And they have some information they'd like to share. And as you discussed at your last meeting, we've also created an opportunity on the agenda so that you can hear from members of the community as well that may have comments. One item that you had asked about and was discussed at the last meeting, there was a meeting this past week between the project sponsor, representatives of the project sponsor, and neighbors and persons that are interested in the number 7 mine and efforts to honor or memorialize or commemorate the mining activities in the area generally, and specifically the number 7 mine. And the report I received from some of the neighbors was a report that it was a positive discussion, and they agreed to continue to discuss. You'll probably hear more from the parties about that tonight, but I wanted to share with you the report back to the city was generally favorable, and an agreement, as I understand it, continue talking was the outcome of that. But at this point, I think, Mayor, my inclination would be to defer to the project sponsor and And they have a presentation that they'd like to make. And then afterwards, Mayor, there'll be opportunity for comments from members of the public. So I'm not sure if it's Nancy Rogers or Sean Northrup representing the project sponsor, who would like to go first, but we've set aside some time on the agenda for you to address the council this evening, so the time is yours.
Okay, great. Well, this is Nancy Rogers, and I'm zooming in rather than in the room tonight, so don't get to see the crowd. As I said last week, I am a land use attorney with Karen Cross and Hempelman, representing the project sponsor. I have a brief introduction, and then I'll turn it over to Sean and the team. This is, again, a review of a negotiated settlement, a settlement that we have negotiated with the city staff to revise certain conditions for the phase 1 preliminary plat in a way that both city staff and obviously we as a project sponsor think makes the permit decision better for both of us because of the clarifications that have been made to those conditions. What we are here asking for the council to do tonight is obviously listen to public comment and address any questions you may have directly to us so that we can answer them. And then ultimately to conclude your review of this matter with a yes vote to approve this settlement. As I understand it from speaking with your city attorney, Alexandra Kenyon, your package should include a motion that includes some sort of phrasing along the lines of a motion to approve the revised phase 1 plat conditions subject to technical revisions to the phase 1 approval to be approved by the city attorney. And that's because while the document you have in front of you has the precise words we want to certain conditions in it, it doesn't dot every I and cross every T that is necessary for the ultimate phase 1 approval decision to make sense and work again for both parties, the city and the project sponsor. So with that, we're again asking that you vote yes to listen to our presentation, and also please, please, please feel free to ask any questions you may have about any issues you're concerned about. And with that, I'll turn it over to, I believe, Sean.
Hello, everybody, City Council, Mayor, and staff. We really appreciate the opportunity to chat tonight and present a few things to you. Before our team starts a really brief presentation, I just wanted to take the opportunity to make a couple points on the bigger picture, if you will. First and foremost, I want you all to know that we've heard an immense amount of information from each one of you. We're all studying very deeply the body of work that's in front of us, and the main point to get across, I think, is to emphasize for you that we're listening. We've heard a great deal of helpful information that will help us make this a better project. We know it's a very big project for you, and you probably know it is for us as well. It's 13 years in the making, and we're extremely passionate about building this project with you in a way that we can all be proud of, including for existing residents, for recreationalists, for new residents, and of course for the city itself. It's really the only way that we can move forward. So tonight's a representative or a representation of that work, and you're going to hear from our team in a couple minutes about an immense amount of work that's happened behind the scenes. And assuming after tonight's quasi judicial process concludes, we'll be offering an opportunity for tours on site for council members and any other constituents that would like to be up on site. And that may be a better format to answer a lot of questions about construction timing, pedestrian rights of way, parks, trails, Stafford, the mechanics of the development agreement, and how those things work as well. While the development agreement is very thorough, no agreement can always answer every single thing. And so we've reached a spot that we've had to work very diligently to address that. We've done that in this case. But I wanted to recall something from the study session last week. It was from Mickey, and I think he said it really well. He said something to the effect of, and he's got a long history with this as well. And he said effectively, Sean's going to need to give up some things, and we're going to need to give a little on our position to get through these sorts of impasse. And I'm proud of the work that everybody's done together to get through this. And if we can do that, then I think we can do some great things together. This agreement represents exactly that kind of attitude. It reaffirms our commitments in the development agreement, And it also affirms several $100,000 of voluntary commitments, which the team will detail tonight, that I think are headed directly towards some of the critical infrastructure things that you have all been focused on. So with that, in summary, a affirmative vote today helps us all move forward to get the positive benefits of the project that is in front of you. And I'll turn it over to the team for a short presentation. They put together some great boards and lots of backup information should there be any other questions later. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor and Council, staff and citizens. Want to first of all, thank you for allowing some time to speak to you tonight about our project.
Name.
I'm Jim Berger, and I am just here pretty much as an introduction to the guy who's going to manage the construction on site. I'm the land development manager for Trailside Homes, so feel free to give me a call anytime when we're constructing for any construction questions. I live in Carnation, Washington, which is a town that is almost exactly the same size as Elum population-wise. I'm also a recovering politician. I was the mayor of Carnation for 6 years and spent a total of 10 years on city council. So I understand what's before you guys tonight and the kind of decisions that you have to make. In the time that I was on council, we had several major land use decisions, rezones, redid the zoning maps and a few other things like that. And it's all, it's pretty intense stuff. And well, there's always a lot of questions regarding new growth and what's this going to do. I can definitively say that the results of growth in Carnation have lifted the town considerably. When I heard the staff talk about the amount of building permits and things like that are being issued and that are being. There was a time in Carnation when a building boom in Carnation would have been somebody walking in the door to ask about the permit process. There's just nothing going on. Finally, some growth occurred, and we're now able to upgrade our main street through town, which is a project that we talked about for 10 years. Finally, put that into fruition, and it's under construction now. Next year, we're going to start a new city hall and community center. All of which is basically brought into effect by the result of an increased tax base that has allowed the city to generate enough funds to collect the matching funds that we need to go out and get grants. So our growth is good. I urge you tonight to honor the work that your staff has done and to craft this compromise agreement and vote yes. And with that, I'd like to turn over to Andrew Miller, who's got a lot of good details about the project.
Honorable Mayor, council members, my name is Andrew Miller. I am the project manager for the City Heights project. And tonight I want to go through rather quickly background on how we came to be at these clarified conditions, some project benefits to the city, always important to remember those. Touch briefly on the timber harvest, Stafford Avenue improvements, which was a big issue at the study session last week, and mine remnants. And then if I miss anything, happy to answer them at that time. Last week at the study session, I mentioned to a few of you that I felt like you were missing some critical information that would help in your deliberations. We appreciate the opportunity here to provide some clarification. When we got the notice of decision, we were concerned that there were 50 staff imposed conditions that we felt were inconsistent with the development agreement and other requirements in and amongst themselves on those conditions. We kind of narrowed that down to 35, but the appeal isn't as bad as it sounds. The appeal was really to just stop the process and have a conversation because it came out and we needed time to get some clarity ourselves. So rather than fight it out in Superior Court or an arbitrator or both, we got together with planning staff and we came to the more reasonable conclusion that we should work together and stop enriching the lives of our fellow attorneys out there. We made a lot of progress in a lot of that, and I think we saved several $100,000 with this way. So thanks to the staff. In fact, there's a lot of people, and I'll probably miss some people, but we spent all of June, 4 weeks, and I'm guessing 160 hours, as you see up there on the screen. And that was help from, I'm counting hours from Mayor McGowan, Greg, and Brett Kudist, our civil engineer, myself, Nancy and Alex. It took a lot of time. But what's really important to note is what I think Jim just said, which is what we did, we spent that time, we found common ground, and we got comfortable with the language. And so, we felt it was a great document, and that's what you have in front of you. And you can kind of see through all the red marks, all the work that went into it. There was some discussion last week about more specificity in some places that had more flexible language. And I know you know this, but I think it's worth noting that there's no perfect language. And actually point back to 4 weeks of effort and all those red marks, you can tell there's no perfect language, but we do our best. But on the areas that had some ambiguity, Stafford corridor, for example, there's a couple things to note there. If it gets more specific in some cases, it might create a condition achieved on day one. And so we might have some problems. But the other part is that we don't have survey data up there yet. So we use the data that was available, Compass, Google Earth, things like that. But when we get the survey data, we may find some imperfections. And this language gives us the boundaries and whatnot to work with Greg and Ben to move it forward. So we've got the parameters, and that's where some of that flexible language comes from. I'm talking as fast as I can. So that was a note about that. So with an affirmative vote tonight, we can continue that momentum that we've been building up since the beginning of June. We kind of geared that 4-week effort into a settlement agreement. We thought we were going for a vote on the 28th. That didn't happen. We did the study session. And then tonight we're looking for the ability to move forward effectively this construction season. It's starting to erode on us. The downstream effects, if we can't get going this year, would be we would shift more towards cost recovery and a potential inability to assist the city on some other things like the CDBG efforts and things like that. But there's also other positive information if this cooperates. Just it's important to highlight some of the benefits of the city. If we get the entitlements and permits this week, this is what starts to happen. First of all, because we worked out the language, we can actually resolve a longstanding issue of school buses not being able to get to 5th and 6th. That's a big improvement to the families up there. I remember that being a big issue of discussion last week. Simultaneously, the language in the conditions gives us the ability to also solve the fire truck access issues up to 5th and 6th as well. We have 3 options in there, and that gets this to a resolution. The city asked for additional time for the dedication of public parks. The city isn't quite in a position where it's ready to take that on. I think, if I remember right from Greg, we only have 1 maintenance person, and they're already stretched too thin. So we agreed to delay dedication of the parks to allow that to evolve. And also the Stafford Avenue improvements themselves are actually going to be completed 1 or 2 years ahead of time. The DA had it triggered for 22 or 23. The impact flows, these are some big numbers I was looking up yesterday. Impact fees, sure, part of the DA. They flow towards police, fire, just this year alone, police, fire, medical, public works, schools, and municipal courts. A bunch of that comes right out of the gate here. If we can get going, there's $405,000 coming in the next month. So something like that, and then first permit, which should be by the end of the year, actually throws another $375,000 coming in. Again, we need to get going on this, but that's kind of what's at stake this year. One second. So the earlier estimates on property taxes coming in, at full build out, we're at 9 million. We like to say we're going to build hundreds of miles of trails out there for hiking, walking, bikes of all sorts. And I think that's going to bring more visitors and more tourism dollars. Recently saw a Whistler economic impact study that showed that other than skiing, mountain bikes actually have the biggest financial impact on Whistler. And what I love about tourism dollars is, hey, they come spend their money and then they get the heck out of town. So you don't have to take care of them later. So anyway, I think that all angles up towards local businesses will grow and prosper. Let's see. Give me 1 second, I kind of got lost here. Okay, so want to briefly touch on timber harvest, and it's going to be short. All I want to say is, if you've got questions about the timber harvest, we'd be happy to answer them, but it's really not germane to the conditions of approval. Happy to answer questions, but that's all I want to say tonight about that. Stafford Street is a very complicated beast, and for that, I'm turning it over to Brett.
So you guys need to kind of move it along. You know, we did put 10 minutes.
Very informative.
But it's good to know. All right.
Well, with that, I'll keep it brief.
Yeah.
Brett Putis, I'm a principal engineer at Elum Consulting. I've been working on land development projects since 1997, worked on thousands of lots and miles of infrastructure. Along that career so far, I've learned there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat when it comes to the engineering standpoint. And I want to give a thank you to Ben, who's always been there to pick up the phone and talk to some of the technical items and get some of the references and just foundational items figured out for the engineering type of things. So Stafford Corridor, I just want to hit it real big. I know everybody's talked about it. We talked about it. It was talked about at the study session, but I have that same board over here that will be up if you guys want to walk around and look at it after the meeting. In addition, I have a plan and profile with grades and walls and things that would be all the technical components on how we solve the Stafford Street corridor with some additional width and the appropriate road grades to get up and around that corner. But I want to direct your attention to the screen, which shows, we all know that the DA went through the whole, or the project went through the whole EIS process, and part of it, the DA came out at the end of it, and it had some mitigating measures in it. Was the corner, which is what you see in green. That's a required improvement that the project is required to make. Again, it's just at the corner, and go ahead. The corner needed to fix the radius on it to make it tighter so cars could get around it, and the sight distance was better, as well as additional pavement width. There's two other sections that aren't in the DA, but that's where there's mention of kind of a voluntary improvement or improvements beyond the requirements in the DA. And that's the two red sections there. You have the upper one, which is essentially a chip seal road. I heard staff talking about, chip seal was just completed. It's a very thin road, no real rock face on it, and not very safe. I've heard members of the public from the 7th Hill area up there talk about near misses on it. It's not very good traffic control. We have the lower section. That's the part that's really narrow. It's tucked inside the hillside. On this exhibit over here, you can actually see a cross section. It's probably hard for you to see, but it shows the existing road, and then you have a little bit of room, and then a drop off, and a little bit of room, and then a hill. So whatever improvement that gets made there, the wider it gets, the harder it is. You're hanging off an edge, or you're fighting into a hill, if you will. So it's a challenging corner. And that was, as you mentioned, school buses and fire service or emergency services hard to get up in 7th Hill neighborhood, and a new residents that are going to be proposed up there. So the conditions that you have, in front of you, which staff helped us develop. Thank you, Greg, and everybody else for helping provide input on those. Those conditions provide a couple different options to fix this corner, and it's all the way from Second to the site, not just the corner. I meant to say corridor, excuse me, corridor from Second all the way to the site. And that gives you the road that allows school buses up there and allows emergency access up there. We know the DA requires the corner to be fixed, but right now the project has a lot of momentum. The project has investors, and the project sponsor and investors have talked, and discretionary budget in about the $600,000 range that would be above fixing the corner that are currently available because they're excited about this project and excited about the momentum and the construction that we hope is starting very, very soon. As we know, if things drag out and stuff is stretched out over time, you know, time is money, and who knows if that discretionary budget is still available 6 months or a year from now if things start getting pushed out. So I really want to take advantage of this momentum that's there. I want to harness not only the budget that's there right now, but we have focus on it right now, and I think it'd be great to get this approved. So I do want to take advantage of the current momentum, and I welcome your yes vote on the agreement front. And I'll answer any questions if you have any later. So.
All right. Starting to wrap it up. The mine remnants came up in the study session. We had a great meeting last week with the neighbors. Thanks to Gordon for the tour. We learned a lot of new things about the history, and it's just the first meeting. And we always intended to create some sort of a commemoration to the mining industry. We were originally thinking that the backdrop of the huge flag pile there in Red Rock Park would be a great place to start talking about it. But that's where we were. And now we're meeting with the neighbors to kind of talk about what different things we could do. The Wash House Foundation, the orange oval that I put there, that was not discovered in the report back in 2010, but no agency and no member of the public mentioned it either. So just saying that we all missed it, but now we see it. The development agreement provided guidance on how to handle inadvertent discoveries, but then it showed up as a condition. So we worked with staff to kind of mesh the two together and assure commemoration of the mining history, plus assure the community has a role to play in the process. All right, that was really fast. Sorry to talk so fast on you guys. Would appreciate a yes vote tonight. We need council direction to help amend the decision and help get our clear and grade permit moving forward. I think we've had it in for 4 months. I appreciate your time tonight, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
I think when we have our deliberations, we'll ask some questions. And I think right now, the most important thing is to allow the public a chance to speak to your proposal. So I would open this up now to public comments. So any of you that would like to address the council, go ahead, you can go first. Yeah, give us your name and your address and for the record, and away we go.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. My name is Elizabeth Kurtz, and I live at 112 West 2nd Street in Elum. I attended last week's training session, and two pieces of information stood out to me. One was Councilman Pulse's concern about the cart before the horse, and I liked his idea about determining costs and what we want to have done, and then finding the money to pay for it. Now, I have a sense that it's a little late in the process to do it that way, but I liked his thinking on that and just wanted to offer my support for that. And then after listening to Mr. Dorr, the primary message I got from him was regarding funding, that we don't have a guaranteed grant in September. We're waiting to see. He offered other options or alternatives that that the council can consider to fund these projects. And that led me to think about these projects being two related but separate projects. One being, of course, the reconstruction and the update of all the Stafford and all of the roads and infrastructure up there. But a separate piece, I think, should be the number 7 mine restoration project. This is just my takeaway from last week, but it seems to me that would be better suited to be a community project with fundraising activities and let this community drive that train. And I don't know how that would work in conjunction with the folks that are working on the other piece of the project, but it just seems to me that the community wants that restoration and preservation to happen. And I think that it's important that we be given ample opportunity to develop a plan and decide what we want and how we want it, and give us control over that piece, because that's our city and that's our history. And I think it's important that the community be invited into that conversation and taken very seriously. I would not like to see the entire funding fall on the city to the expectation that the city is going to pay for everything. I don't think that's fair. I do think it would help to kind of assign tasks to either side. And I think that this community would be better served if the community had their own participation and involvement in the restoration and the preservation of the number 7 line and the history around it, and maybe get help from the construction folks, but to tell them what we want, and they tell us how they can make that happen.
Thank you. Gordon, you had your head. No, you don't have nothing to say. Well, I was pointing to the guy right behind you. So it's kind of that arrow went right over your shoulder and you thought it was the direct hit. Yes.
Gordon Jones. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. I want to be real quick. I just want to go through a few traffic numbers that I came up with. It doesn't seem just to be too out of place. Right now, we have 21 homes north of the power lines on the hill up there. And we have 50 residents homes on the 7 Hill, the 5th Street, 6th Street area. That comes up to 71 dwellings. And you times that by 2 cars, I think that's pretty fair. It comes up to 142. 2 trips a day, it comes up to 284. Plus 2 visitors a day, might be mailman, might be UPS, FedEx, the washer repair guy, whatever. That's another 284 round trip. The daily, right now, we have approximately 568 vehicles going up and down our streets. With phase 1, with 68 more homes, times the same things I just talked about, that brings it up to 544 more vehicles on the road. 568 now, 544 more, a total of 1,112 vehicles a day going up and down the Stafford corridor. The total City Heights is the same scenario, 962 homes times 2 cars, 1,924 trips, 1,924 vehicles times 2 trips, 3,848 back and forth visitors, another 3,848. So we're talking about 7,696 more vehicles daily with the whole project. So that's Montgomery, Stafford, and next one down,
Columbia.
Columbia, thank you. So that's just a quick one on the traffic. Keep that all in mind. Sounds like big numbers to me. It's something that Clay Elum's never dealt with before. So, okay, we had a meeting on July 8th with a developer, Mr. Northrup and his team, and I'd very much like to thank all of you for doing that. It was a very important part of our committee to meet with you guys and actually show you what we knew about the history and let you guys get maybe a little bit better view on what we're talking about when the neighbors are talking about this history up there. These foundations are the oldest foundations in the town of Clay Elum right now. There's nothing older. You didn't need churches, you didn't need schools, you didn't need any of that until you had a place for people to go to work. And when the railroad came through in 1888, the mines, coal was discovered in Elum in 1894, and that's when our town grew. Before that, well, it was a settlement, but after that, there was a reason for the town. This is the reason why we're here. And we must save this history. We have lost so much history in this town. We don't have our depot, our Northern Pacific Railroad depot. We don't have that. We don't have our old hospital up on the hill. We don't have that. We don't have our old fire hall, what was built around 1903, 1904. We don't have our old city hall. We need to save this. This is one thing that will give us identity, and we can pass this on to after we're gone, our kids will know why Elum is here. It's very important to save this history. It also, if we save this, would save the identity of our neighborhood. Number 7 Hill neighborhood was all developed around that mine. So the Coal Miners Park would fit in with the Coal Mine Trail, the Coal Mine Memorial in Roslyn. It's just a perfect scenario why this would all tie in. If we don't protect this now, it's going to be gone forever. And it needs to be protected on site in its original place. And when we met up there, everybody, I think, up there, it's a beautiful, beautiful setting for a park. This was our first meeting with the developers, and it ended on a positive note. And we have, I believe, many more meetings in the future. So then I always talk about legacy. How do you want to be remembered? How do I want to be remembered? How do each one of you want to be remembered? What a way to create a legacy. What we create and save today, it'll be here tomorrow for all to enjoy. So we have to think about our legacy. What do we want to do for this city? What's important for this city? And how do we go about it? The only way we can go about it is working together on this. The council, the mayor, our community group, the developers have to work together. We have to have a communication. The citizens of Elum expect the city government who represents us to be probing for as much information as possible. It's your duty to be informed so that you can make the right decision, because this decision is very important. We need input from our government. We vote for you. You're representing us. We need to have you involved in this. We aren't able, so far we aren't able to talk to any city council member because it's under litigation. We can't talk to you because we're going to be the ones voting on it finally, and we don't want to jeopardize it. I don't understand that, because you should be looking for information and trying to collect as much as possible so you can make the best decision in the end. So I would encourage the city council to be more involved in this. And since we aren't to any, we haven't made any decisions on this or agreements with the developer, I would like more time for us to do that. So we would like any voting to be tabled until we have more opportunity to get more information and come up with an agreement. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, my name is David Van Wert. I am the HOA president of the Vistas, which is the community at the top of Summit View Road. I've been in Cle Elum since 2015. It's my home. And I'm here representing the 21 lots that Gordon mentioned above the City Heights development. Mr. Northrop was kind enough to meet with the Vistas HOA about a month or so ago, explained the project and how it's going to impact our community up on the hill. And it was a very good meeting. I was very impressed with the amount of, research and development and thought that went into the project. We had a lot of concerns about Summit View Road in the past because of the bike park. We'd have 50 cars in the summertime park there with little kids running around, somewhat supervised, but not always. And we talked a lot about liability on Summit View Road. We even hired a lawyer to see what our risk was. It should, accident happen. So Sean has explained to me the rerouting of Summit View Road would help a lot with the traffic, and he's proposing a pedestrian bridge and a large open space and possibly separate parking for mountain bikers that wouldn't be parking on Summit View Road, which the folks up at the Vistas fully support. We're happy to hear about more open space and park below our community. The hiking and biking trails are, I think, a huge plus, not just for the Vistas, but for Cle Elum, Roslyn, Ronald in general. I've lived all over the country. I was a Navy pilot and Delta pilot for 40 years and traveled the world. And things like those trails are huge for the community. I know in Woodstock, Georgia, where I lived for 25 years, they fully embraced the mountain biking. And they have a huge amount of revenue generated from that. Growth also. So I guess I want to say thank you to Sean for taking the time to talk to us. And I believe what's good for Sean is going to be good for Cle Elum. With my travels around the world, it's grow or die. And I do believe growth is good for Cle Elum. When I first drove through Cle Elum in 2014, I said, no way, I can't live there. And then I looked on the west side, and I was transferring from Atlanta to Seattle to fly out of SeaTac. And then I went, no way can I live over there. So I said, let's take another look at Cle Elum. I've grown to love Cle Elum. And I always said that once I retired, which happened last September, that I would move to Idaho. I'm staying. I like it here. It's a great community. And I think we've got huge upside potential. But part of that is managed growth. And it's up to you good folks to figure out how to do that. God bless you. And, hopefully it's all going to work out and we'll have a great community. We had a few concerns also about traffic because it's going to increase by a large amount. So widening Stafford Street, Reed Street, possibly a traffic light at 2nd and Stafford would be a big help because it's already pretty busy. We're sensitive to people like Gordon and Carolyn Jones. We're the new guys. So they spent their lives here. We move in, build these nice houses up on the hill, but we want to be good neighbors to the people that have made this, a great place to live. The people with, history here. So I don't know about the artifacts that Gordon's talking about, but if the city of Cle Elum and the communities that are there think it's worth saving, it's probably worth saving, in my opinion. but I'm the new guy. And I think there is a middle ground where it's going to be beneficial for the original neighbors, the people up at the vistas, the city in general with more tax revenue. It's all upside as long as we can work together and come up with good solutions. And somebody mentioned it was a 13-year process so far, just from a HOA president point of view. I hate to see it drag on too long. You know, once it gets started and you start harvesting trees and busting up the pavement on Summit View Road, and once that all gets started, it'd be nice if we could just keep it moving with, you know, within reason. I know that some things need to be looked at to make sure we get it right. I'd hate to see it drag on for a long time in a kind of a disrepair state. If we're going to do it, let's do it. Let's do it right. And I think Cleon's going to be better. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. My name is Carolyn Jones. I come as a package deal with Gordon. So there are a few things I would like to share this evening. First, it was stated by a council member at the study session on 7/6. There seems to be weaker language in certain areas of the settlement agreement to be voted on. Perhaps some were minor clarifications, others not. For example, the language regarding the Memorial Park presented in the May 13th SEPA is different than the June 25th settlement agreement. I just want to quickly read over that. So this is the May 13th language. The project sponsor shall, in consultation with local interest groups and neighboring property owners, submit plans to design and construct a memorial park that includes or is in the immediate vicinity of the opening to Mine 7 and the remaining foundations of associated mining buildings as partial mitigation. In the June 25th, it reads as follows. The project sponsor shall, in consultation with local interest groups and neighboring property owners, submit plans to design and construct park features that commemorates the local mining history that may include or is in the vicinity of the opening to mine number 7 and the remnant foundations of associated mining buildings as mitigation. The June 25th language certainly leaves a broader interpretation depending on who is reading it. Our intent as a committee is to preserve the existing number 7 mine remains in their original location and not to be removed or dug up. As a past teacher for 36 years in our community, I was fortunate enough to be one of the original team members who worked with other agencies in establishing a district-wide curriculum called Stewardship of Place. I see this memorial park as a wonderful opportunity to partner with our schools, scout groups, and city government to make this park a reality. It is vital that our future generations in this community know why our city of Elum exists, while advocating being good stewards of our community. Next, over the 4th of July, I was able to witness the pride we have as a community during our Pioneers Day parade. Every year, we honor our pioneer queen and their rich family heritage that has made our towns unique and special. Many of our queens have had family members who actually worked in our local mines. Finally, it is our obligation as a community to ensure that our history is protected, respected, and honored. Although our committee may be small in numbers, the people who make a difference are not ones with fancy credentials and titles, but the ones with a concern. Thank you.
Oh, hang on. There was right after Carolyn. Oh, thank you, Carolyn. There's a person in the back.
Oh,
He wait, you want to give your time up to,
go ahead, go, feel free.
I'm just kind of going in order. I'm watching the hands fly and so, you know.
Mike, I have 4 questions. One, we keep talking about Stafford.
So your name?
Corridor. Oh, Christine Oxley, I'm 405 Stafford. I know it's a small house. I also own a house in Genesee Park in Colorado. It's a big house. I love the little house up here. And it was owned by the people that started the 5 and Dime store here in Elum. It was built in 1908. It's an old house and it's a small house, but it's right on Stafford. And when you start moving traffic up Stafford, my house starts to shake. And I'm going to give you an example. When they built your community and they put the construction traffic up there, my entry from the outside down into my basement vibrated and came loose to the point it collapsed all the concrete steps and the walls on that because of that. So I'm wondering if any engineer studies have been done regarding what changing Stafford Street would do to the existing homes on top of that hill. It looks like we're small, but we're important. The other thing is, I understand all this building brings in money, but money does not always equal value. And you can take a good look at what happened to Issaquah. It's not that great when you look up from the hills. There's aren't hills, they're just homes up there. But my main question is, why isn't Alliance being considered as the primary entry or way into this development? It was discussed originally. It was on the first plans that were being proposed, and now it's off. And that concerns me. I mean, you don't have to widen it. You don't have to really do a lot of grading on it to make it accessible for everything. And so there has to be some reason. I'd like to know what it is. The other thing is on page 15, item 36, number G, it says that the developer can access, would be responsible for accessing the property if they need to for doing the work on Stafford. And I'm wondering, does that mean that we suddenly, the developer has the right to come in and start cutting away on our hill where our homes sit? And that requires that stability. And nothing's addressed that yet. And any of the concerns have been brought up. So I would like to know about that because I love my house. I also respect why it was built there because it looks out and it sees everything in the city. You know, it's right on the corner. And I'm getting ready to buy the little part that goes over. And I don't want to buy it if you're going to take it and cut it away to make Stafford wider. So I'd like to know that. And by the way, mountain biking, my grandchildren are going on the CU University's bike team. And I understand it's great. So I'd say quit building houses and build us a Valmont bike park up there, charge the $86 a day per person to come and ride it and do that instead, because that's a lot of money in that, because Boulder will tell you that was a great salvation for them.
Thank you.
I'm an unvaccinated person. Can I take my mask off and talk?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. John DeWitt, 408 East 2nd. Little brief history. I coach the local mountain bike team. So we have middle school and high school kids. Been doing it for about 8 years now. Named the team is the Pack Rats. We were raised through the Washington Student Cycling League. Beyond that, I do a lot of community outreach with youth and ride with a group of kids that can be anywhere from 5 to upwards of 35 kids showing up to any given ride. You can count my volunteer hours in the community doing trail work and maintenance in the thousands, not the hundreds in the last few years. And I'm on my 3rd kid and 5th dog up on that hill, walking, hiking, biking, and all that stuff. Had the privilege and ability to work with Sean and the access he's given us as the biking community to that piece of property. And I've been thoroughly impressed, and I don't see any reason why he won't continue to work with the community. I think it offers value to the community, working with somebody like Sean who sees the value and what it odds. And I don't think he's trying to close anybody out. I've seen so much development where the end results is the local community just gets closed out. We don't have access to that area anymore. So of all the given possibilities of that being developed. I think it's a good road forward. I'd be lying if I said I'm excited. Obviously, I've had 20+ years of unlimited access. Things change, I accept that. And they speak about, today they were speaking about, the cost of on running and never coming to a conclusion. Coming from the background of construction, I understand what, those cost runs, and you just bleed money away for discretionary funds. And I really hate to see in this situation that happens, where this project gets drug out, and the money that could go to local organizations and help fund local things and improvements for the city gets eaten up, and just, so I'm gonna ask that you allow them to move forward. Been nothing but good to work with at this point, and I don't see any reason why they won't continue to operate in good faith with the community and take everyone's consideration and what the community wants in the picture. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, and thanks for listening to me.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city members, and members of the community. My name is Stephen Malik, 204 West 5th Street. You don't know who I am. My wife Audrey and I own Base Camp Outfitters in downtown Elum. We live here too, up on West 5th Street. We've been here for about 9 years now. As a local business owner and resident, I'm incredibly invested in the future of this city. Simply put, I want what's best for our city and its residents and businesses. And that's why I'm asking to approve the settlement of the phase 1 application for tonight, because I believe in the long run, with all the meetings that I've had with Sean, I believe he has a lot of our best interests in heart in developing it. One of the best things that I compare it to is I think I would rather see what Sean is putting forth on with all the open acreage, instead of another development like Elum Pines, where all the trees are taken away and houses are built on top of each other. I like the idea of 5-acre, 1-acre lots up there with lots of open area. And I think they have almost 130 acres of open public space that will not be developed. I just think that would be a better fit for our community than another Elum Pines. Raise all the trees, make it flat, build houses on top of each other. And part of these meetings that I've also been able to be on the City Heights Outdoor Recreation Advisory Group. So I've gotten to meet with Sean talking about the trails system multiple different times. Again, that's where I was learning about all of the total property that's going to remain green and open to the public. Right now, there's already over $100,000 dedicated to putting in mountain bike trails and multi-use trails that have already been approved, I believe, that are ready to go forward. I just think it'll be a tremendous project that will be able to connect all the trails from Roslyn all the way across, all the way over to Drew Brew along the ridge. I just think that would be very beneficial with all of the ups and downs and being able to connect all of those, both mountain bike and multi-use. The other meeting that I got to attend with Gordon, thank you. I got to really learn about the mining history and discussed all the ways that it can be memorialized, especially where the bathhouse was located. Again, the groups, Sean and their group seemed extremely open to the ideas there about trying to find a way to help preserve the legacy of Elum and its mining. Again, the more we slow this one down, as it's been mentioned before, as any project goes on, as you make delays, that discretionary spending that they have lots of at the beginning that can be used to help benefit us, help make these parks bigger and better, memorials bigger and better. The more it's delayed, the more those discretionary funds disappear. And that is something that I am concerned about. in the end, the last thing that I'd just like to keep pointing out and the overall benefits both to the city and the greater Cle Elum community is, again, the project's 18 years long, probably the entire build out. It's not happening overnight. It's going to have a huge, long process that the city council will be able to continue to keep working with Sean and his team and make it keep evolving and making sure that the council holds him responsible to all of the development process to make sure what he's promised is actually delivered. So it's on the council to keep them, I asked for the council to let them start, get going, and then keep them on track. In the end, I think that the overall growth in the end is going to be worth it in the long run for our city and for our community. Thank you.
Any others? Oh,
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, and staff, and citizens. My name is Richard Kendall. I'm a partner with a firm called Allison and Partners, and we advise City Heights and Trailside Homes on, excuse me, community engagement. A local business owner, Jeff Newman of Tamarack Trail Builders, has written a letter, and he wasn't able to attend tonight, and he authorized me and asked me to come read it on his behalf. But before I do so, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Dave Van Wert and the Joneses for meeting with us recently. That was an incredible tour, and it was very educational, and appreciate your collaboration. We look forward to that continuing in the future. Jeff wanted me to read this, and I'll just go ahead and do so verbatim. The City Heights development would be a great asset for the residents of Cle Elum, the citizens of Upper County, and visitors alike. The vision for this project has been many years in the making and has already been approved by the city of Cle Elum for more than a decade. It is amazing that the developer has wanted trails and outdoor recreation opportunities to be included in the master plan right from the start. I think we all know how important trails and outdoor recreation opportunities are after COVID, to be able to get outside and socially distance. Beyond just trails, City Heights is focused on improving and creating outdoor rec opportunities for everyone, young and old alike, experienced and novice, families and individuals, leisure and adventurous. The bike park has already been a huge success for the community. It's where young and old have come to learn new skills and improve the ones they already have. City Heights development team plans to almost double the size of the current trail system. The current bike park will be altered during the construction of the new roads for City Heights, but when they're finished, the bike park will actually be bigger and better. The road alignment and construction of parking lots will solve the parking issues that have been a huge problem in the past. At least 30% of the project's total site, about 125 acres, will be green public open space for everyone to enjoy. The project was approved in 2011 as part of a development agreement between the city of Cle Elum and City Heights. I ask that you approve what's before you tonight to allow this project to go forward as planned. Sincerely, Jeff Newman, Tamarack Trail Builders, LLC. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, I'll be real quick. It's been pretty well covered over. But right now, my
what's
biggest.
your name?
Steve Jones. I live on.
We know you're Steve Jones, but for the record. You're
I
not
live
a
on the
stranger.
corner of Sixth and Reed. And that is right where this proposed access road is going to go up into City Heights. And I am so worried about this turning into a raceway right through our neighborhood. And it's going to affect us, the residents of Seven Hill, all the way down Stafford, the Third Street residents, Second Street residents, and it's going to really, I think, become a nightmare of a traffic jam and raceway somewhere or another. It's got to be controlled, and I'm really concerned about that. And so please keep it in mind when you're making decisions on this. You know, we want to be recognized too, you know, that it's a big deal. This project is a big deal, but keep us little people in mind too when you're working this out. And I'll leave it at that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, that's it for, public comments.
Yes.
Oh,
Do you want to check and see if there's anybody up there?
Good point. Rob, what do you see online? And the way
Yeah,
you-
so I'm looking online. I don't see any hands raised, but I do want to reach out to the Zoomers to see if there is any. I had to mute a couple of people that weren't on mute. There was some noise, so I don't want them to think that I don't want them to talk, but so you can unmute yourself right now and see if you like to speak on this topic. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. No hands. Nobody's in the waiting room. I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. So council deliberation, Greg, do you want to give us something to think about, or we just, matter of fact, do you have to go to another meeting?
No, I'm good there.
Okay. All right, you guys. You do have some deliberation points here.
Could I ask Greg to go over them and allow us to a little back and forth? I mean, you've written them down. Want to hear them again?
Oh, in terms of the comments?
No, not the
Or
comments,
in
but
terms of changes.
Your
right?
letter here
Yeah.
with the four basic options available for your consideration. And you kind of have them in two places. Oh, I guess it's two different letters.
Bottom of it, sure.
This is actually the July 8th letter.
I don't know if that was the July 8th when I had the four
It is.
options.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Mayor, members of the city council, as you heard that there was quite a bit of discussion during the month of June and back and forth between city staff and the project sponsor and his team, and trying to develop a better understanding of what the concerns were on behalf of the project sponsor, and pleased to report that the project sponsors team also was listening carefully to the concerns and the issues, and as we tried to articulate them on behalf of the city in matters such as the public's the ability to travel up and down the hill and at all times of the year under all weather conditions safely. For instance, the preservation of the in memorializing the mining heritage in the area, in the importance and why it was important to defer the dedication of parks and trails to the city, and certainly, as one of the speakers spoke, the limited staff that the city has at this point is one factor. There will be revenues that come at a point in time, so we'll be able to go into that role. But it's also, there was other reasons why that was important. Because of construction is going to be going on for a number of years, and it will be done in phases, that the challenges associated with managing and enforcing the use of the trails during that construction period is going to be a significant obligation, and really something that the property owner and project sponsor is in the best position to manage, as opposed to putting the city in the middle of somebody else's construction project, trying to manage trails in that period. So there was a lot of back and forth. And as we previously discussed, we reached at the staff level an agreement or understanding where we thought that the changes helped clarify the intent. And it was not our intent to weaken any of the conditions or undermine the ability of those to be met in any way, shape, or form. So with that, and you've had the opportunity to hear the comments, what we outlined was there are really 4 basic options, and there's certainly variations on those, but just to clarify those options, one would be, and all subject to action by the city council, one would be to, it would be a motion to accept the modified conditions of approval as presented by staff, with the proviso regarding the attorneys working out the fine detail language. But basically, the first option would be to move and then take a vote to accept the revisions as presented by staff. A second option would be for you as council to essentially do the same, but you any of the modified conditions that you wanted to further modify, then you could move in second to say, for instance, delete a proposed modification or modify one of the modifications, but then
These modifications are this document,
yes,
right?
yes. So that would be a second one is to further fine tune one or more of the conditions based on the comments received. The third option would be to remand the document back to city staff for further discussion with the project sponsors, with direction to address specific issues if you found that one or more of the areas wasn't satisfactory, you felt would benefit from additional discussions. If you were to remand it back, we would take that up with the project sponsor immediately in discussions, and then come back to you with whatever we might arrive.
Okay, remand the proposed modifications to city staff. And then you gave a for instance, you may direct city staff to bring back revised recommendations to more clearly address how item just whatever.
Yes.
That's why you used Q.
Yes, yeah, just,
For whatever.
yes.
Okay.
And then the final item would be, if you were so inclined, it would be to not approve nor modify what we presented. And if you were to vote and not accept it, then we would proceed with scheduling the appeal hearing. So the matter would come back to you, but it would be in a different context. It would be in the context of the appeal as filed by the project sponsor, and it would then sit as the appellate body and have received presentations presumably from the city attorney and project sponsors, legal counsel, and then you would make a decision on the appeal. So those are the 4 basic options: accept as presented, modify what was presented, remand what was presented, or disapprove what was presented and proceed with the appeal. So there's certainly modifications of those, but to try to provide some context, those seem like the 4 basic options as to how you might proceed. And we could certainly answer any questions that you might have in that regard, or on any of the items within the recommendations.
I tried to compare the two and realize why attorneys get paid a lot of money, because my mind went numb trying to compare these 2 documents. Were there changes to this between our study session and today?
No.
None at all. Okay. No, I couldn't find any.
There was, sort of an agreeable discussion about.
What does that mean?
That happened, when they met with them up at, that did happen between our study session.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
that-
no changes to the document,
And no
but there was.
changes to
a-
the
Oh, right now between the committee and.
Yes, and that, there was a meeting with them. That is something new that did happen. Stephen?
Oh,
Was that Stephen?
that's Stephen, but he froze.
Mr. Mayor, can I speak?
Is that you,
Yeah.
Steve?
So I think the only two.
Stephen, you got-
Are you able to hear?
We have a
I can
really
see
bad
and
connection.
Hear everybody well.
Okay, try again.
But that, is that any better?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that any better now? I can hear you very well. Okay, so I think really we just have 2 points that have been communicated to us by our constituents or by previous discussions. One is the verbiage that Mrs. Jones brought up. I think that's something that we need to have, some firmer language on, and I would stand in, substantial support of this document. The other, I guess, the really big thing that gives me any heartburn with approving today as is Stafford. And I like to try to explain it this way. When you build a building, you have to build good framing, and then you have to put a roof on it, and you have to dry it in. And that is sometimes the bulk of the work of a building. And then you fix the amenities and you put on the sheeting and all the other stuff. And to say, and in different discussions, people that have been in support of the document, they're often saying things like, let him get started and then he'll be able to get the ball rolling. And the fear that I have with the current language and how it addresses the Stafford corridor is it lets the ball get going without any kind of way. Once a ball gets rolling, once an object gets into motion, it's what I'm trying to, I guess, get at with these 2 analogies is we have to address, I believe, Stafford Street more strongly in how it's going to be dealt with versus basically that we're going to hold them to the minimum requirements that we gave in the developer agreement. And we'll deal with the other accesses, et cetera, to this area in the future as we go. I think it has to be addressed on the front end. And so I'm recommending that we basically send this back to staff to continue talking a little bit more about the sure language of, like Mrs. Jones had talked about, memorializing this and the exact placement, and then shoring up the commitment to Stafford Street and not just improving the corner. I understand that they're looking to, I guess, to fix certain parts, but I'm talking about the whole corridor being brought up to a unified standard versus just making the corner really sure and then adding, blacktop to the rest of it.
I would agree with my fellow councilman on the point 1 about the clarification on the number 7 memorial. I think that has been made clear that we don't have what we want to see there from either party quite yet. But I would disagree on the Stafford corridor. I am a restaurateur. I know restaurants and I know deep fat fryers and I know ovens. But so you hire me to do those things. We are hiring engineers and construction experts. We're not asking the Boy Scouts to go and pave the road. We're asking a group to come and present us. This is how we're going to make the improvement for the road. And I feel one of the things we could give a little on is that trust the fact that we have a development group that knows what they're doing. Trust the fact that the engineers, and Ken, you probably can speak to this a little better. You're a great engineer, but I believe they've hired the best of the best. And this presentation tonight came, one, they put it together to put our minds at ease, but 2, it came from the heart to say, look, we want this to be a success for the city of Cle Elum. So, I agree with Stephen on part on the number 7 memorial. I'd like to see a little bit more on that. But if construction is going to come anyway, I mean, I think we have the best group possible of engineers. We allow them to do their job, which is to shore up the street, widen the street appropriately, and move forward with that.
Ken?
Okay, I'd like to kind of follow up on that and kind of second what Councilman Stephen Harper did. I agree very much with what Stephen Harper just said, that it looks to me like we're down to 2 issues. One is the historic stuff with the local group. And the other is, I'm not going to call it the Stafford access. Okay. We have a road that, it hits 15% up there. In 2011, it was never pointed out in the whole environmental impact statement that school buses can't get up that. Well, it's not in there. It didn't come up. I guess, Stephen wasn't on the council. But it didn't come up. And well, if school buses can't get up that, then we got a problem now. And it would be very important for us right here to not add traffic to what's already not acceptable. And so, and yet, we've heard testimony from neighbors and friends that we're making real progress. We've got a lot of goodwill here. Of course, we have attorneys in the background, and I'd like to solve it all without attorneys. I really would. I would like to, as was pointed out, harvest the momentum. These people are in a business that has a lot of risk associated with it. And I know that and appreciate that. And I'm not out to penalize them. And I came here in 1993 when the whole thing was owned by the people I worked for, which was Plum Creek Timber at the time. And got up there and I thought, man, what a beautiful place for homes at some point. And here we are. So the only hang up I have, period, is making sure that the neighbors are taken care of and that we have a safe main access road. Okay. And so with these 4 possibilities in mind here, I'm going to make a motion that we basically go with number 2, which is to get what it takes to make things start happening, but that we do not approve at this point what is done for the number 7 line agreement, plan, whatever. We don't have an agreement yet, that has to be done. And the main access has to be, more stones have to be turned over. And we gotta present our people that we really do believe the best solution has been worked out. And
well,
so that's my motion.
So don't you think in a way that number 3 would cover that probably a little better? Demand the proposed modification.
I guess I don't know what the difference between
with specific
2 and
directions
3 is.
and further.
Number 2 is do wordsmithing tonight. Number 3 is hand it back to staff to get the finer points worked out.
Number 3 is
And
send
so-
it back and to deal with those 2 issues. is what
Okay,
that- what
okay,
3
well,
says. Okay.
that's, okay, then what's the difference between 2 and 3 then?
Well, because I think 3 is a little more specific, isn't it? Go ahead.
2 is we make a motion, right, to say, we're gonna move forward with this with these changes. 3 is we're sending it back to staff to to work out the changes, and then he sends it back to us, and then we vote on it.
What's the
then.
difference?
Well,
We vote on one tonight, or we make the changes right now in real time, or we get it back with changes and then vote on it.
So, for instance, if the suggested changes to the condition regarding the park, if council, if you thought that those changes undermined the intent or the ability to get a positive outcome, you could move to accept the document, but without those changes on that item. So you could,
Are you talking about option 2 or 3?
under option 2, you would make that change tonight. I was just using that as an example. I don't want to suggest that you would do that, but you could say, we're going to approve it tonight, but we're not going to approve the changes to number 7 or number 9 or 13 or whatever. So
we'd have to pick out the points in the red line document.
yes. So that if that's what under option 2, under option 3, what you'd be doing is you'd give the document back to us and say, go work on this some more and bring it back at your next meeting. So there's different implications to each of those options.
And
Go ahead.
what I'm going to say is choosing number 2, we go, correct, we can go ahead with it, but they still got to bring back the changes. Well, with that, I would like to say this, that isn't in your statement there. Every council meeting we have number 6 on here, which is citizen comments, non-agenda items. So if we go ahead with number 2, we aren't locking anyone out because we're open to when you come down here and talk to us. And then right before that, we have public appearance with a 15-minute limit. So, the monuments in the city, we worked very hard on them up at Mountain Star and Arcadia, putting them together and making them go. And they are very, very important. Nick Henderson spearheaded that. And even though he worked for Mountain Star and Arcadia, that place wouldn't have been built if he didn't get what he really wanted and really his heart said we had to have. And he pushed it all the way. So, but there is, when a project is approved, you are not shut out by the counselor there. Every meeting, you have a chance to come in and talk. And believe me, it makes a difference. We go week after week after week after week. No one even bothers to come in. Then we see them at coffee in there and they say, well, why didn't you do this, this, this? Well, I didn't think of that. But they did, but they never bothered to come down here to tell us about it, So the option, it's not closing everyone out. It's always open to you. It's an open door here. We're guided by the laws of the state and the federal government that we can't talk about something like that. It's not something we decided here as a council. It's a rule that's out. And why it's ever been put out on there, I don't understand it, but you can't talk about it as decisions there. So that's where we're at. And I just thrown it out for
So
information.
I can let the others have a chance to throw the comments in there.
I just want to ask a question before you actually officially make your motion. First off, in the chat there, I think there was some people that were trying to get into public comment, were having trouble connecting. I saw something pop up and I was curious if we could see that.
See that.
Yes, Greg, if you just click on chat with that mouse to the computer next to you.
Yeah.
If you just click where it says chat, I'm curious because there's a point in here.
We want to hear from.
Yeah, right.
We
Why
wanna hear from.
I agree. So if you move the mouse
to the one little red chat,
the mouse isn't moving.
No, Rob, can you
Maybe we
move
get
it?
Rob.
Yeah, so what happened is, after we had the public comment period and you started to deliberate, somebody came on right afterwards. I don't know if they had trouble getting on, but they do want to speak if you'll let them,
Well, that's
or
the
not.
Go ahead and click on it. That was the motion. We want to see what that chat.
Okay, click the button on the mouse and you'll start to move the mouse.
It's easy for you to say.
So there it goes. Now it's moving.
Yes.
She asked, is it too late for public comment? We are Brian, Sharon, 416, we have a small screen.
Vacant land everywhere outside of the backyard. Well, I was curious because I heard small stream and it reminded me of somebody made a comment before about that. And then in the document, it's what is now going to be 15D. It says compensatory mitigation may be proposed to ensure that there is no net loss of wetland or habitat functions and value. And that was changed from shall be required to may be proposed, which sounds like going from the opposite here to completely the opposite here. And I'm just curious about that language change and how that might impact something like this, where it looks like it might impact a wetland. She's unmuted. I think this one.
I'm unmuted. I can speak if I'm allowed to.
Yes, go ahead.
So my name is Sharon Steinbus. My husband Brian is here with me. We own a home at 416 West 5th Street in Cle Elum. We're the corner of 5th and Reed. Stafford, our home is accessed by Stafford. We also have, the home is also an older home built in 1908, was an old miner's cabin. We understand that the mules were highlined in our backyard. We have a small stream that originates from a seep on the property in question that travels through our backyard. We have wildlife corridor that goes through our backyard. We have bear, elk, deer, you name it. What we're concerned about is the possibility not only that Stafford might become a thoroughfare, as Steve Jones mentioned, a racetrack, but also the possibility that our land might be taken to reconstruct Stafford Street through our backyard. This is my husband, Brian, speaking.
Concerned is with the wildlife. We have cameras in the backyard, and I've documented everything from, squirrels, crows to bears, everything, and they all come down to our backyard. We have like a gully backyard. And with the proposal of the new road, if it happens, would destroy that backyard and the wildlife area.
So in terms of council members' comments that we need to make sure that the neighbors are taken care of, I absolutely feel that taking away people's properties to reconstruct a road for a housing development is the wrong thing to do. I hope that you will take that into consideration and that a safe, sane access road can be found other than Stafford or in addition to Stafford. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any other chat? Is that it?
I think that was
Hang on, wait. Council is talking now. Everyone's had a chance. That person did not have a chance. And Greg Dorn is going to speak to them, right?
Yeah, could you address that
Yes.
particular point?
Yeah, I think the intent of the change was, the key point is that there be no net loss of function and value. Compensatory mitigation may be one of the ways it would be accomplished. There are other ways that it could be accomplished. So the intent was to clarify, not mandate a specific solution, but the bottom line is that there would be no net loss of function or value. That was the intent. And we've had follow-up discussions with Department of Ecology on that matter as well.
And that's okay. So there won't be a net loss, but it may not be that particular method to mitigate. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hang on. John, or any of you guys, Rustin, you got, John hasn't had a chance to say anything, so let's let him hype up a little bit. Or you don't have to say anything, but you have the opportunity. Okay, because otherwise we'll talk right over.
Oh, I know that. I've been here long enough to know that. I guess kind of going back to what Russ said earlier about him being you're a restaurant and tavern guy. Asking us to figure stuff out where we're not educated in that area is why we hire the great Dorns and other people of this world to advise us and help us to understand and come to these decisions. Something like this, the City Heights project is it's a pretty large undertaking. I was on the city council back in the day when a company named Trend West came to town. We all know it today as Suncadia. There was a lot of the same kind of stuff that happened back then. And to me, in order to get things moving back then, and Jay, I don't know if you recall, you were on the council at the time too. It took a lot of meetings and discussions, and it came really what it came down to was both sides coming to a compromise. And I think one of the definitions of compromise is a decision where neither side is 100% happy with what was decided on. And I think personally, I'm kind of more in favor of the number 3. I don't know, Ken, what you're thinking about. Number 2 kind of puts us in the situation like right now to say, this is what we want changed, this is what we want changed, this is what we want changed, all in favor of tonight. Right? Where number 3, we go back to those experts that we have, the great Dorns of this world. We give him and them, we give them our concerns and have them come back to us and say, this is what we found, or we met with the people that are trying to put the buildings on the ground, and this is the compromise we came to. And I guess I would prefer to see something like that occur rather than sitting here tonight and going, let's see, number 3A or, whatever. We want to make this word change, or we want to change this from an A to a the, or whatever it takes. I understand Mr. Northrup wants to get going on this project, and I guess if I were in his shoes, I would want to do the same thing, but just like it was back in the day when the Trend West came to town. I think it's more prudent to take baby steps instead of saying, yeah, let's go ahead, let's step forward and do this right away. And I'm sure if you quizzed the vast majority of people that live in Cle Elum today, very few would say, yeah, we never should have let Trend West come to town. So if we're going to do it, let's do it right. I mean, they're here. It's going to happen. Let's just make sure it's done the right way. I don't know if that means anything.
That's good.
Can I speak, Mayor?
Go ahead, Steven.
So yeah, in response to your comments, John, I appreciate the tenor of them, but I have to sharply disagree with the fact we don't have to be experts on this to understand the overall brokenness of the situation, especially concerning page 15 and point 36. Ken is an expert in this field, and he's tried to lay it out in the simplest terms, is we have a situation that is already needs to be addressed. None of the developers, if you were to sit down and look them in the face, I believe any of Sean's team, none of them are going to say it's a bad idea to fix the whole of Stafford Street corridor. That is not the question, is whether. The question is who should be footing the bill or the large majority of the bill. And that is why I am going to motion that we choose option number 3 and have staff revert the language of 29 or reasonably adjust it to address the comments of Mrs. Jones, and that point 36 be addressed or any other measure, or able to address a stronger position of them. I don't know the best way to word it, but basically we need to remand it back to staff to address those 2 points, 29 and 36.
So that was a motion. Stephen.
Yes, and I'm seeking a second.
I need that motion to be stated. I didn't get that.
Okay, I'll try to make it more simple. Is that we remand this back to staff to address concerns with point 29 and 36 as per discussions this evening.
29, those are Stafford Street. Well, let's read
The number
29.
7 line to Stafford Street.
Huh?
Yeah, it's
How
the,
about 34, 35, 37, and 38?
Yeah, I'm not.
You have a motion.
I know.
Motion. Has it been seconded?
no, it's failed to get a second.
Well, hang on. Why don't we look and see what are those, what is 29 and 36? Anybody know?
29 is the language concerning the memorialization of the number 7 mine, and 26 is specific verbiage as to the responsibilities of the Stafford corridor, in my understanding.
Well,
Okay, so that's the motion, Wayne. That's the motion. It's to send it back to deal with number 29 and number 36. Is there a second to that for discussion? Okay, the motion fails for lack of a second. So let's continue talking here.
okay, can I talk?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Steve and I are very, very close to saying the same thing.
Okay, go ahead.
And in this document, number 29 is the number 7 mine concern.
Okay.
And I concur. The transportation related stuff is basically 34 through 38. Isn't that right, Mr. Dorn? Yeah. And so I think the project is good enough, though. That's why I would rather, my first choice would be option 2. But with the motion to the specific conditions being to come to a rewrite, a negotiated rewrite of 29 and 34 through 38. Otherwise accepted.
I'll
So-
second that.
So that's my
Okay,
motion.
so there's a
and
a
that-
motion and a second.
That gets it.
No, let's,
Going.
hang on. All right, there's a motion second. Now let's get this motion perfectly clear.
Yes. thank you.
And that is that you would, how would you rewrite? You're gonna rewrite 29
Yep.
and you're gonna
Subject to negotiation. with the
subject to
neighbors.
renegotiate 29 and to renegotiate 38 through
The 34 through 38.
34 through,
And some may not need anything.
well, they can.
Some
they
are,
can
like
hash it out.
36 is the main one, like Stephen pointed out.
Okay, all right, good. All right, so I just want to make sure that everybody clear the motion. John. go ahead.
I guess I have a question on the motion. What do you want to?
No, that's, he's gonna tell them.
But
That
you
goes
said
back.
number 2, so you like saying number 3?
No.
No. I'm
Are
saying
you
they have to be
remanding
rewritten.
or revising?
Well, I'm not, I'm remanding.
Okay,
That's
so
the
number the third.
So can I speak?
Go ahead.
Ken, I don't believe that it's proper, that I don't believe that this motion is proper because we can't approve an incomplete resolution or settlement, or else we haven't resolved or settled. The idea of resolving or settling is that we come to a complete conclusion. So if we're choosing number 2, we are wordsmithing tonight. If we choose option number 3, which I'm very much in concept agreeable that we need to hand this back to staff for option number 3. And so I would either seek that you would amend your motion and change to number 3, or that you would rescind your motion and restate it as number 3, because option number 2, to be very clear, there is no, it has to happen tonight and this document gets accepted in its entirety. Option number 3 lets us address our concerns, which I could certainly widen to those other points you mentioned.
Okay, I hereby revise my motion to be option 3. And, but the same items to be remanded being number 29 and 34 through 38.
Okay.
And just as a point of order, would Mickey also consider that change?
Would you second the change?
No, I will not second it. You need a second to discuss it.
No, we did have a second. He changed his motion.
In effect, he's trying to amend his motion.
So now he needs a second.
Yes, does need a second.
I will
That's-
second that.
Okay.
All right, okay. So the motion is to remand 29 through, and then 34 through 38 to the staff to come up with a negotiation. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions on the motion?
Great.
Just a comment. Oh, just
ahead.
a comment that I think that we're going to be able to move forward swiftly on this now that we're down to the last order of details. I'm hopeful anyway.
Okay, did you want to make a comment?
Mayor, I was just, have been asked by the project sponsor for an opportunity to speak, and I know that this is your deliberations and you have a motion in front of you, but I am passing along a request from the project sponsor to be able to speak.
I have no objection.
I don't have any objection.
With a motion on the floor, though, I think we would have to either withdraw the motion temporarily or vote on it. We can't really do something else.
Yes.
Withdraw.
I would be happy to
I
withdraw my
the
second.
motion, temporarily.
Okay.
Okay, so it has been withdrawn temporarily. And who is it that wishes to speak?
The applicant wishes to speak and our project sponsor, Mayor, if I could just add one comment to the council. From where I sit, I would have no reservations about amending the condition regarding the park to remove the the revisions we discussed and default back to the original language, I would, as you were discussing, feel uncomfortable about making any changes tonight to the language regarding the street. I think that would require additional deliberation, but I am knowing the discussion and the issues and hearing the concerns of the neighbors, I would feel comfortable with modifying that back to where we were, but once again, the project sponsor wish to address you at this point.
Andrew, they're gonna pick you, huh?
Yeah.
So we get to throw.
Your tribute, got it.
Okay. The rest of them were too afraid to come up here. We're so.
Lots of communication helps.
Well, it's a little off the cuff. I promise to keep it short because you've got a big night ahead of you. I want to clarify a couple things, and I think I was too subtle because I was trying to move faster earlier. Your staff agreed, I'm just saying that you're basically overruling your staff, both planning and engineering, to remand it back. And clearly you're right to do so, but we worked hand in hand with staff to create that language. Remand is not the same as agreement. And here's why. And again, staff knows this, so I assume that you guys did. Tonight's a really big night. We're July 12th. If we don't start, we lose this season. And so if it gets remanded back and it's going to take a couple of weeks, all momentum ceases. We go back to, do we take a different course on this and have somebody else rule on these conditions? And I'm not trying to be a butthead here, and I truly mean that. I respect you guys. But think about it from our perspective. This thing was supposed to be approved last year, and here we are in July 12th. And remand means continued delay. And if we lose the season, we lose motivation. And we can't keep delaying. And that's what I wanted to say. I don't know what Sean wanted to say. So I'm very concerned about it. And I don't know if that was too subtle. But we had so much goodwill going and so much momentum going. I think that's what everybody was trying to say, but the underlying is, let's not stop that by remanding it back to staff. And because if we come back here in a month.
2 weeks.
Who's saying I'm out? Who's even?
But I just want to be clear, if we start on August 1st, we can't finish by the time the season closes. And staff knew that. That's why we pushed so hard in June to bring it to you guys on June 28th. Knowing that we had to mobilize the beginning of this month in order to even make it. Sorry, I don't want to ramble anymore. If I was unclear, let me know. But thank you for letting me at least throw some 2 cents here in the end. Anybody else?
One thing I'd probably clarify with Andrew is that tonight there's been discussion, and I don't know if it was clear that the reason Brett folded that slide over is that has all the detail of all of the Stafford work. And so the slide that they showed earlier, which is the other one, the green section is required by the development agreement. So we didn't really talk about that tonight. That's just what it is. The red sections are sections in which we've had to reach compromise, in which in part initiated this appeal. And so the conditions that Greg and team have negotiated, we tried to clarify earlier, I think they get all the things that you want. There's a series of conditions in there that basically ensure that there's fire truck access, there's school bus access, and in and amongst that, I touched on it, there's $600,000 of discretionary money that we've conceded in that negotiation. And what Andrew was trying to allude to is we don't have the ultimate control of how we manage all that money and the timing of that. So what I think what's underlying that is the massive body of work that's happened over the last year, including a lot of things that the precursors to litigation and other things. And so we're at a place where, number one, the conditions outline all the things that were requested of Stafford that get all the conditions that people have been concerned about. And number two, it's opened the door so that we have an open dialogue with the neighbors as a requirement, as outlined in there, if we go remand that to other things, then we have to just look at all of what the options are on the table. So I think maybe if you'd like us to explain any of those details, Brett would be best suited to talk about what's in there, because the way the deliberation sounded, it was as if you're still concerned that that doesn't happen. For example, they worked really hard on complex language with Ben to get the grade repair to a level that was acceptable to Ben. And I think one of you gracefully said, well, you know, our team has worked those details out. So Kim, we've known each other a long time. I know you're a road guy. So we're familiar with grades together and whatnot. And we have a situation where we have an elevation at the bottom and an elevation at the top. And to get from there to there, there's only so much math that can happen. And we've exhausted all the math to make something that we would be very proud to have our families and our customers and whatnot experience. So that's it. Brent, would you like to say something?
If you did have questions about the technical stuff, I mean, we're trying to peg it at 11%, which is IFC.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. But we live in a community here in the winter time. That's when the school buses are going up and down. It snows at night. It's above freezing during the day, and then it freezes again at night, and it's a solid slip sheet of ice. And the school buses aren't going to make it 11%. I don't care what you say, you know, it ain't gonna happen. And we've got to approve something that's good forever. And that's why I have a lot of confidence in the endorsement that I've heard for all you guys and the negotiations going on. And that's why I would rather go to option 2 instead of 3. But I can't revise them right now.
No, I know exactly.
Okay. So I could approve it without those there.
So hang on a minute. We're done with comments. We'll go back to the council talking. Hang on.
So the items in the agreement are 29, which has to do with the number 7 mine.
Yes.
And then 34 through 38. And
there's no reason why they can't bring some back to the side, I guess, but go ahead.
So two things. One, I thought we kind of already at our study session, I intended to give the impression that those were places where I thought changes needed to be made. And then we got a document back that's the exact same document that we were presented at the study session. So I'm not sure if staff didn't hear what we were asking or they decided something else. And so I think we need to be very clear about what specific points in that we're looking for so that they make those changes. And then my other thought is, can they meet tomorrow and can we come back on Thursday and vote on this? Like, we don't need to wait 2 weeks. If it gets to where we want, I'm happy to come back mid-cycle and get this done because I realize they've got a schedule, but we need to do this right. And I completely agree with your comments, Ken, that this has got to last forever and we represent people who are already here and it's got to be right for them.
Yeah, and
Okay, so are you going to your motion, you're going to, what do you call it when you activate your motion again?
I make a motion.
Wait a minute, you got a motion and a second.
Well, hang on. You've already just
rescinding here.
Okay, I rescind the prior motion. All prior motions.
Okay, so
And I will, rescind my second.
I make a motion that we take option 2 with items 29 and 34 through 38 deleted. And come subject to a separate agreement.
I'll second that.
Okay, let's see now. I don't.
Ask our planner if that's
Hey, can
Hang
I
on.
speak to this?
Moved and seconded, right?
Yeah.
All right, so now discussion. Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, it's really simple. You've just resolved this by relieving them of 2 of our major sticking points by the verbiage of your motion. I would stand in substantial objection to it and again ask that you rescind or that we vote this down, and that we would make it again with option number 3 with the same points. And again, I'm certainly with Mr. Morton's or Mr. sorry, not Morton, Lund's proposal that we come back very soon and have whatever special meetings we need to get this, or we could continue this meeting. I don't know another way, but again, you can't just, we cannot vote yes to the motion that you just said, or we put our city in some major liability issues.
Can you explain that a little more to me, Steve?
The actual verbiage that you just said is that we basically take those 2 points out of this agreement here, and which would in effect resolve it without those points, and that we come back and basically try to negotiate another agreement on those points. At least that's what I'm hearing. Am I hearing incorrectly?
Yeah, there's 6 points.
So.
Or however many points it is.
So what he's saying is, if you approve it, but the other 2 are still completely up in the air. The other one, we'll approve it once we have an ironclad agreement on those points.
But Mr. Mayor, I beg your pardon, I don't think it's being clearly understood. To delete those points from this document resolves the whole matter. Then us going to them and petitioning them to take up those other points separately is like kind of ludicrous.
I mean, that's the. So I guess I would suggest that, Ken, the previous motion that you made and that I seconded would be the appropriate one that I would support, because it would send it back to staff and to the project sponsor. They would work out where our sticking points are and then bring it back to us, and hopefully we can call a meeting right away and get it done, assuming it's what we want. But I think we need to be very clear with them what we want them to change.
You know, let me say something.
Go ahead.
I don't know anything about his company, but it's a true statement he made that you're going to miss a season.
Yeah.
You're talking about 2 or 3 days. That's not real. They have people they borrowed money from. They've made promises to them. When they get on the phone tomorrow, we don't know. Might be, no, we have to go back for 3 or 4 more days. When are they going to get tired of hearing 3 or 4 more days? They can blow the whole thing right out of the water real quick. You saw a Mountain Star go to Suncadia. Oh, the same deal. So I would put the trust into Sean. He's not going to hurt you. And go with this and have them come back with the changes on there. We need a grade that the school buses can go up and down. We have to have something the kids can walk or legal, that they can ride the bus down the hill. It has to be done. There's an elevation, like you said, from here to here. It's their job to figure out how to make it here to here and then here to here, not ours. And they will come back with something to make it go, or else everything will be just passed on. And you've got to believe in them enough to give them the chance to perform.
And that's why I would like to approve the rest of it.
Yeah, but that, well, okay, so any other questions on that motion?
Which I would need you to restate the motion. I didn't even know we had a motion. I don't even know where we are now.
Well,
What?
So he wants.
He made the motion.
basically, the motion was for option 2. So requiring an amendment to item 29, which is the mining concern, and 34 through 38, which are, several of them will probably need nothing, but collectively those have to do with the transportation and the safety. So I'm saying the rest of it, let's go. Let's get something better on those 2 items.
So
otherwise get them.
So respectfully, can I speak again?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor?
Go
Okay.
ahead, Stephen, I'm listening.
Yeah, you are not understanding this, Ken. Option 2 is not what you just restated. So just to be clear for the public, I get that you approve everything else. We still do that with option number 3. We say, staff, don't worry about any other points other than the ones that we mentioned. Option 2 is to deal with it and wordsmith it tonight. To be clear, is that what you are asking for?
I'd like the input from Mr. Dorn as to whether my motion is doable or not.
If mayor, members of the council, maybe if we delete the references to the numbers, if you were to say to us that the proposed changes to all the other items in the document are okay and leave them in place and bring back revisions to the items number 24 and 30, 29 and 34 through 38, we would do that. And I would understand that there would be a degree of urgency and that you would be looking for us to bring it back as quickly as possible. And I would infer from this discussion that you would be amenable to scheduling a special meeting to consider whatever we bring back, similar to what we did. You may recall with Suncadia, you met right prior to Christmas and had a special meeting, but that's what it took to get it done. So I would, based on your discussion, interpret it that you would want us to only address those specific items, make revisions, and bring them back to you as soon as possible to be responsive to the express needs of the project sponsor. And so if that's what I accurately just.
Would option 3 be more appropriate than option 2? Then?
No.
What I described, yes. And whether it's option 2 or 3, I would understand your motion along the lines I just discussed.
Then I withdraw my motion again. And
It's all right. It's okay.
yeah, it's all right. And this is great to have these friends and neighbors here.
I'll take back my second.
He's going to take back his
Okay. And I think the next item to talk about is when are we going to get back together?
No. We have, you just revised that motion. Now we need to make a motion that reflects the recommendation.
Okay. Okay, then I make a motion according to option 3 to remand
29.
29, 34 through 38. And
Second.
Okay, move second. But also within that motion, you say that we would re-meet as soon as possible.
And we would re-meet as soon as possible. Is there a second?
Yes, I second.
All right, so it's been moved to second to remand option 29 and 34 through 38 to the staff to remedy that. I'm kind of ad-libbing here, and to bring it back as soon as possible. We'll call a special meeting.
And yeah, to authorize the mayor to call a special meeting as soon as it's ready.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, questions on that motion?
Lots of them.
Well,
let's hear it.
Okay, any other questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion is accepted. You have your marching orders. And figure it out. We need something concrete. Okay? Okay,
How about the issue of when to get back together?
that's up to them. They'll let us know. As soon as they have something, we will call a special meeting. And so I would suggest, just for a little bit, that we have, say, a 5, 6, 7 minute break.
I take that on.
Some of us that are over 65 would appreciate
If
getting
you
up.
don't stay, thank everyone for coming.
We have a lot more business to take care of. But,
We ain't done, of course, but we're making progress.
Yeah, that's not really. You guys are okay sitting there.
Have you walked up to them?
No, I'm not.
When are we gonna do that?
I'd like to.
And I didn't even really, you were saying.
I'm not here next month away. Yeah, as long as they get the right thing gets done, that's what it's about, right? It's nice to know that the citizens are heard. Let's see if we can put that part to action.
But that's
No,
But I get it.
But yeah, they don't have to walk. If we are gonna make $1 million. Well.
Yeah. Well, we have our attorney on the line for a reason. We can ask her questions.
But yeah, so I just, you know, I don't want to, I'm not here to push it, we should get more.
But there is, now we're gonna have houses, and they're all gonna walk to the bottom. That's my problem.
Because then they would be council members.
Elevation here, elevation there.
Right.
Well, that's our city engineer should be telling us.
Hey, you guys, hang on, you got four.
Just three of us.
Four.
This is.
Four, that's a.
Yeah, we're not
That is a quorum.
We're not a quorum.
It's not a quorum.
Four is quorum.
Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Right?
We're talking.
We are not talking to him.
All right.
And it's certainly to the comment, because
It's all being recorded.
Oh, probably not. Probably not. I think they heard everything. They just approved the first.
Yeah, because the
6
council room doesn't
lots
have
of that addition. to Clear Pines Mall. The first addition.
No, it's not.
We're gonna have to bring your ballot.
Maybe 75. And so.
We'll help you, right?
Our negotiations with.
All right, I'm gonna go get some.
No, no.
Growth area.
We can talk Kyle. Let's have Kyle back. Who? Kyle.
But it is.
Oh, my buddy.
And it's unfortunate that it's not codified,
This is the time to come.
but the hazard is there, and we gotta live with it forever. So,
And I hear.
so I have ideas. I'd like to get out, we speak the same language, but I can't because I'm on the band council. Okay.
It's helpful.
No, I have 2 more years. Are you running?
Yeah, the guy that was sitting right there.
Oh, Steven? Steven? Yeah, he's running against you.
Yeah. I don't think.
I understand that completely.
I-
know the pressure.
I've been through these, so it's like, there's nothing we're gonna do or say or whatever to make y'all go away, because like some people in the community think we should do that. But one of the things that we need to look at, and I didn't say it when I was talking, but it's like going back. We make sure that we're good neighbors.
But with the past thing, you know, back in the days that John's talking about, we were sitting here at the city with essentially no services.
Yeah.
It sort of sat around and ponded over in the Yakima River, and so the mayor was threatened with jail. And our water system was just a pipe that came in on Ranger Station Road. Put a little bit of, and my hose, it would just drip up at 20 PSI. Okay.
All right, come on, you guys. This is still a public meeting.
Yeah.
The mics are still on.
Let's go.
All right, so Don't.
Except Steven's missing now.
How many write-ins?
Oh, my word.
20 during an off season? Yeah.
Need something.
Go for it.
They knew.
Sorry, I was attending to a poorly or a greatly needed coffee.
Okay, where is it?
Quick, clear it out quick.
I've been looking for you guys.
That's here, yeah.
Everyone's doing this, we do that.
Okay, wow, wait, do I?
Can I miss that too? Or?
All right, we're gonna bring this meeting back. We're gonna bring this meeting back to order here. So now we're gonna go down to, and this one's just as important. This is C, ordinance 1609, repealing and replacing the Elum Municipal Code 17.001. Greg Dorn, you want to walk us through that?
Yes. I just turned around and reached for it.
Yeah, right. You can give them a copy. We have a copy here for you if you want. And that was- yeah.
Can I ask a question about this item right out the gate?
Okay.
So,
This is, go ahead.
yeah, so this is in response to my motion last, okay.
That's right. That's
So
what this is.
perhaps my clarity was not there. I assumed that this was still gonna go to the planning commission. I only
This
made,
is just, we're talking, right here is just about things, just that.
I understand that. So
Okay.
what I'm saying is I made a motion to split it out so that that part could be expedited, but I had still had every intention for that to go through the planning commission and not come straight to us.
Okay, well, that.
Because I just, the reason I separated them is because I knew that whole section was gonna take a long time. And I assumed that we wanted to fast track this one in terms of still having to go through the planning commission before it came to us. Because this is a, 35-page document that has a lot going on. So anyway, I just wanted to put that up front because that was the intent of my motion that we passed unanimously last week.
Okay. It's important.
Well, then, I guess I would make a motion right off the gate that this would be sent to the planning commission for their review prior to us looking at it, because it's a substantial change to our planning code, and that's what our planning commission is here for. And seek a second.
I would second.
Okay, motion was that this revision to the ordinance be sent back to the planning commission. Separate, as a separate item.
And so I'd also like to make comment is I don't stand in objection to the ordinance, but I think on principle that it should go to the planning commission at least so that we can hear if they have any finer point recommendations one way or another. It's still completely subject to our deliberations.
And as I said in my comments last week, I'm very supportive of moving to the option of having a planning, a hearings examiner, but I want the planning commission to opine first.
Okay, moved and seconded to remand this to the planning commission. Questions on the motion?
Yeah, this is the going to the hearing examiner form of review, correct?
Yes.
And so it's only on a type 4 review that the city council is involved. Otherwise, type 1, 2, and 3, type 1 and 2, the decision makers, the city staff designated by the mayor and city administrator. Type 3 is a hearings examiner and the elected council does not participate in either decision or appeals for type 1, 2, or 3, correct?
So it's just the yellow portions of type 3 and type 4.
What did they
What do you
say,
mean by
what did
that?
the yellow ones say before? Did they say city?
Okay, well,
council?
in any case, I guess that's a question on the motion. What did it say before? What he's saying is in type 3 and type 4, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 areas that will be affected by this. Follow that?
Yes.
So that was his question on the motion. Right?
Is it a question on the motion though?
Yeah. Well,
I feel like we're-
actually, no, it's a question of the
questioning
content of
The content,
of it.
motion.
No.
Question on the motion.
Okay, the motion was to remand this to the planning commission, not to discuss. the discussion. So you can still discuss it, but we have a motion. on the table.
Well, my discussion is to clarify what the council's role was and is. What's the change?
Yeah, but that isn't what the motion is.
I know that. But it's pertinent information.
So,
Would be germane as to whether he supports the motion or not.
okay. Maybe you can give us a quick.
Sure.
I don't understand what we got wrong there.
I don't,
I'm with you too.
can I understand you, it's important, but the point of this is to send it to the planning commission for them to look at first and give us a,
And then we'll discuss it.
give us a recommendation, and then we will get into the discussion of
But
it.
it's also important to know what we're referring to the planning commission.
That's what he wants to know.
Okay.
All right. What are we asking the planning commission to do? That's what his question on the motion is.
Oh, can I speak to that?
Yes.
We're asking them to look at-
So the general topic is the introduction into our planning system of a hearings examiner. And that's what this document addresses. And so we're asking our planning commission to fine tooth comb that and raise either support or objection to all or part of this document as it sits. That's what the motion embodies, and that's what the document before us is.
And
So-
then it comes back to the council for deliberation.
So on a type 1 review, as it currently is, the appellate body is the city council. Is that correct?
Correct.
And similarly, for a type 2 review, instead of the appellate body being the hearing examiner, it's currently the city council. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, M3 and 4, that everything is that, or the staff, the certain ones, and we, Mr. Dorn would probably be more familiar with that framework.
Okay. And on type 3, the decision maker. What's currently the decision maker for type 3?
I believe that goes to the planning commission, right? It goes to the planning commission.
But they're not a decision maker. Planning commission.
Yeah,
can't-
yeah, but that's why we want to change them.
No, but the planning commission is not a decision maker.
You know?
I'm
So
gonna-
here's my,
okay, go ahead, Stephen.
yeah, I think this, while I'm certainly want to quell your curiosity, I'm not exactly sure how it's germane. And so I would ask that we call the question, if that's possible. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor and 1 nay. Goes to the planning commission. Okay? And then we'll have it on our next agenda. So now, oh yeah, my scribble, look at this. Okay, so now we have, oh, is Ben, are you still there?
There he is.
Absolutely. Good
Holy-
evening, honorable mayor, city council members.
Holy mackerel.
We might be 3 hours into this, but it doesn't feel like it, does it? Okay, it does. We'll try to keep this one quick.
Okay, so he's gonna walk us through D, which is the safety improvement task order, and one of the questions is, where's the money come from? Go ahead, Ben.
You bet. So we'll try to be quick on this one. It is a consultant agreement for the city safety improvements. This project was funded just recently by the State Department of Transportation. This stemmed from a couple year ago effort that the city went through developing a city safety plan, looking at problematic corridors, and ultimately several of the improvements that in that plan were identified for funding by DOT. The obligation paperwork has been processed. The city went through a selection process, and there's a consultant agreement in front of you for performing the engineering services. A little bit of history on this. There was a funding application that went in, and in the application, there was a 10% city match. Due to the state's recent troubles in obligating a certain amount of federal funds and targets, they've essentially incentivized cities and local agencies to get the obligation packages complete, sent into the state for authorization, and by doing that, they would take care of the 10% match. And so the city's 10% match that was planned is no longer in place. This is funded 100% by the Department of Transportation, which is rare, but it is one of those things that I think the city was rewarded essentially for getting the obligation paperwork in a timely fashion.
Second.
You said enough. Go ahead, Ben, give us a.
I can continue, or we can go on with the motion. It does include some minor physical improvements. There's one at Floral and Second Street with some illuminated stop signs, some illumination, some sight distance improvements at the intersection. And then also at the First Street and Crystal Creek Crossing, some guardrail replacements, looking at access and access control at that location. Other services in the contract are a substantial amount of traffic counts, pedestrian counts, parking counts, and a report that'll go along with the data collection.
Great.
And so with that, I'll answer any questions.
Yeah, my second stands.
It's moved and seconded to what? Authorize the mayor to sign the local A&E professional service agreement. Is that sufficient recap?
Perfect.
Yes. Questions on the motion? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. It is agreement number 21120E has been approved. So you guys, I have to say this though. When I mumble through these things, you know who it gives trouble to?
Kathy.
And it's the staff, right? So I try to make this as clear as mud, okay? And I'm oftentimes real good at making it mud.
You do a fine job.
Okay. Okay. Where are we at? New business, right?
New business.
Okay, yep. Oh, you have a.
Yeah, if I could introduce this is resolution
Very-
2021-017, establishing the cemetery area for Goldie Mausoleum. In essence, they've purchased 14 plots, and in that area, they would like to build a mausoleum and some other amenities that would certainly complement our current cemetery. In order to do that, they do understand that an improvement to an extant road is going to need to happen, and they have agreed to reimburse city's time and in order to do that. From what we understand, it's mainly just going to be time of city staff on our road crew, et cetera, that's going to be working on that. And so I would stand in support of resolution 2021-017 and I look forward to any questions.
I hear a motion.
I make a motion to pass resolution 2021-17, 017, establishing cemetery area for Goldie Mausoleum. And I seek a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded to,
That's time and equipment, right, Stephen?
Yeah, it's whatever the cost of improving that road to where it'll be able to support the construction materials and vehicles that will be coming to build the mausoleum. The net effect is when we're done, we'll have a more finished road and a better road for future travel and convenience of citizens.
Great.
well, I didn't repeat the motion, but that sounded like question. Is
Sorry.
there any other question?
Just a comment that Ben and Wanda have both been on this council in the past
I
and
know
have
well.
contributed huge things through the years to this community. And hats off to Ben and Wanda, and whatever we can do to honor them. I mean, that's the flagpole part for sure. Some of the paths and the sewer progress path and the sewer plant. These are people that their input made these things happen, among many other things.
Okay, all those in favor with aye?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, resolution 2021-017 is passed. Now, under new business, we have B, the Wayfinder Finding Plan Contract. Lucy will explain to us the importance of that.
Hi, again, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Ben Annan is still on the line, so he might chime in on this one, but I think I can kick it off. So Ben let us know that, and he's been helping with the Complete Streets funding process throughout since 2017, when we first got our 125,000 that kicked off what followed up as being close to 4 million, I believe, at this point. We've had 2 of those Complete Street grants, and the last one was used in 2020 to build the Billings Avenue to Oaks Avenue sidewalk improvements as part of the phase 2 of the downtown revitalization project. And there was some money left on the table, surprisingly. What happens with Complete Streets is that you need to spend all the money in order to be eligible for the next round. And the next round has already started the nominations. So there's a whole nomination process that we've been successful at in the past. We think we'll be successful this time, but we have to spend the $29,000 that was left on the table. So what Ben did was he thought on his feet. He was meeting with TIB, who's the Transportation Improvement Board that oversees this program. And he gave them what he knew of as some quick shovel-ready projects for their approval, because they have to approve the work program in order for us to actually spend the money. And the only one that they were interested in was the 2018 wayfinding signage plan that the city and the Elum Downtown Association cooperated on development. So that wayfinding signage plan has several signs that would go throughout the city that would direct tourists or locals who are lost, I suppose, to get to certain places. It will upgrade our signage throughout the city in terms of, I mean, we have signs that tell you to go places that don't exist or that give you bad directions to get places that do exist. This cleans everything up, and it does it to the MUTCD standards for signage that are approved by FHWA, and therefore are approved to be used on the state highways that run through the city. And it'll do a good job at creating continuity with our signage and directional signage program in the city. So we have to spend this money by August, and we sent it out for bid following the city rules for bid process, and we had one bidder. Luckily, they have great success stories around the state and other cities, and they were able to work with us quite quickly to come up with a contract for review. Now, the contract price is coming in at about $3,000 over what the Complete Streets funding has. So we have, I think, about 29,000, and I think it's coming in at 32,000. But it's very, very close, and it gets us to, it's basically us spending 3,000 of our own money to be eligible for several $100,000 of their money. Ben, do you want to add anything for clarification? Maybe I might have stumbled over that a little bit.
No, actually, you did a good job, Lucy. Those are the details. It unraveled fairly quickly with the closeout of the First Street Stormwater Project. There was a balance of about $29,000, as Lucy had mentioned. So there was one of two strategies. You either close out your grant and provide the $29,000 back to TIB, or find a way quickly to spend it by the August 31st cutoff. And so, as Lucy said, we just thought about different strategies that would expend those dollars in the next 2 months. The wayfinding was of the greatest interest by TIB, and ultimately that's what moved forward with to get the proposals. And as Lucy mentioned, there was just one supplier that put a proposal in, $3,000 more than the funding, but would recommend moving forward with the proposal.
Okay, and one clarification to make is that the total for the contract would be $32,929.20, and it does not include sign installation. One thing that Ben and I talked about, and what we realized from doing the parts of the downtown revitalization that we've already done, is that the poles cost way more money than the signs. And this amount, the 29,000, would have gotten us about 5 signs, no joke, because the poles are sometimes $2,000 just for a single pole. So we have to purchase the signs, and we can purchase the signs and then work with the city crew to get them installed, at least beyond the pretty downtown core. We can get them installed on basically what we're using for stop signs at a pretty low cost. So there is still a bit of additional cost for installation, but as long as we purchase the signs before the deadline, then we're eligible for the Complete Streets money. So there are caveats.
Don has a comment.
I just have a question. Where are we going to get the extra $3,000? Where's that coming from?
That's a good question.
It's going to come from the general fund.
Just from the general fund.
It'll come from the general fund, and ultimately it'll
And
come
that's
out of
like
it.
not-
Ultimately,
I just
it'll-
want to make sure
it'll
that's
come
not a
out of,
problem.
it'll come out of street. Yes.
Right.
Okay. I think we can.
I might mention as kind of thinking quickly on my feet, we will likely have less of a dependence on the general fund for the operation of cemeteries with certain acquisitions of plots that have happened this year. And so I could see it easily balancing out in that or many of 100 other ways.
Trying to be Ebenezer Square.
Okay.
No, that's good.
All right. No, that's always the question. Where's the money going to come from? Always.
The funds are there.
The funds are there.
I make a motion that we approve the Rixar contract for the 2021 wayfinding plan implementation, authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. To authorize the mayor to sign the wayfinding plan sign contract. Questions on the motion?
Yeah, how many signs are we purchasing total? 21, is that what I read? Or is there more than that?
Yes, so there are, I think, 33 signs. There are those signs that have up to 3 different destinations with arrows that are more conducive to 25 miles an hour. There's 27 of those. There's 3 at the east end and near exit 85 that are the high-speed vehicular, so they're a little bigger. And then there are 3, I believe, no, sorry, I got my numbers wrong. There's 7 different gateway signs, all the different gateway entrances to the city. We have a lot. And then we also, on top of that, there's 21 blue icon directional signs. So it'll have the universal symbols for information, for the airport, for the police, for the hospital, etc. Those are kind of riders on those same signposts.
Yeah, I get my question was 58 total. My question is, we've spent all this money to make downtown so cute. Are we going to litter it with, litter's a bad word. Are we going to put so many
Clutter.
signs up and like they'll just be cluttered, like when you walk into a Jack in a Box, so you know that all 10 things are there, and I would hate for like NASCAR with all these different, like, hey, with this way, this way, this way. It's so cute. We spent all this money with the lights and the plants, and now is it overkill on how many signs are going up?
Councilman Weaver.
Is it a little overkill?
No, I don't agree that it's overkill. I actually personally worked really hard on this with CETA and their consultant and the Chamber of Commerce. It's pretty consistent with other cities around the United States. And the maps included in your packet, if you scroll back, it's about page 34, but it has the maps where all the signs are located, and any given street, you might see 2 signs several hundred yards from each other. You know, one on each section of the intersection, but we also have stop signs and things like that. You're not going to see them all at once, and our right of way is very wide, and so it'll just be those people that are looking for them. I think it'll add a lot
And you
of.
didn't find it appropriate to with a cold beer and arrow signage pointing east, did you?
I think we can arrange that. We'll do that at night.
What you're saying is you need a sign that says where to find the beer or the burritos? We didn't have those yet.
How about the one up the hill here by McDonald's that says hospital that way,
I like this part of it.
cemetery that way?
Awesome. Thank you,
It
Lucy.
does.
Yeah, that's all right. You got your choice. Go there, go there. Okay, any other questions? Any questions on the motion? If not, all in favor with aye.
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 Those opposed,
Thank you.
hearing none, the wayfinding sign contracts will be signed. Committee report.
We have a committee report from the Utilities Committee.
Go ahead.
We had a citizen, a ratepayer who had a water leak. In our code, we have a provision for non-detectable water leaks relief. I think we've hit on them a few times, but we won't consider a request for less than $100. We won't consider a request for more than 500. But in between that, what are the facts of the case? Well, in this one, we had the city informed the ratepayer on Friday, June 4th, that there was a significant water leak, and it was going to result in an unusually large water bill. The next day, on Saturday, he hired a firm to fix the leak. And as it turned out, their water line, this is one of the newer developments I won't go into, but basically, the pipe is here and there's bedding material down here, but the pipe was above the bedding material and there were rocks thrown in there. Well, what do you know? The rock broke the pipe. And so it was not the landowner's fault. There was no way of knowing. It responded promptly. The request for relief for this bill is in the amount of $351.78, which includes the appropriate prorated water and water tax. So if someone would make a motion and the individual's name is Jeff Rao on Marion Drive, I'd like somebody else to make the motion for $351.78 of
I'll
relief.
make the motion for $351.78 for Jeff Moan water leak.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded to provide the water overage relief of $351.78. Questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The relief is granted. Any other committee reports? No, John, you can't say it.
Yes, you can.
I make a motion that we go home.